Good Monday evening. How are you? It is soccer over there. Guys, it's been a hell of a month, hasn't
That's a word to use.
it? Just letting you know, it's been a hell of a month. It's
I don't like
Nicolifi.
the look of it.
No.
It is Nicolifi. It is Jason Longshorts, John Nelson, who will be joining us in voice only, as he is out in the wilds of South Georgia. So,
Check.
yeah, we don't trust South Georgia internet. I'm just saying, like at least South Central internet. That's not bad.
Evening Bandit.
Evening Bandit. So, gents, how are you? Give us an update.
I'm watching right now. Let's see. Tacheres just got a penalty in the 90th minute to equalize with Lanús. And coming up at 7:30 on the TIC Internacional and the Fanatis, Defensa y Justicia
Attaboy.
against Central Córdoba. Defensa's on the road here. This penalty was called about 3 minutes ago.
Yeah.
And the Tacheres player standing over it, ready to take it, and a Lanús player has pulled up with a cramp. So he is fallen down, and the cart's out to get him, and further delaying the penalty. It's an impressive move. I'm very, very impressed with these shenanigans.
And Defensa, by the way, is a plus 134 on the road. Central Cordoba is a plus 218, and your draw is a plus 202.
Oh, I'm a little biased, but that's a pretty good plus number for Defensa.
I'll take that.
I'm just saying that's pretty good.
I'll ride with a plus on that one. Guys, we have so much to get into tonight. I am trying to figure out where to even begin, so I'll start with Dome Torrent on his way out at
Oh,
Flamengo.
Dome.
Dome.
Look.
So, Jason?
Yeah, this is madness for a lot of reasons. Let's talk about Dome Torrent at Flamengo. We've talked about it when he first went there. It started a little slow, right? And then he did the business. They are in third at the moment in the Brasileiro. They advanced in the Copa do Brasil. And, okay, just to update, the penalty was saved, and then the rebound was put home. So it's 1-1. Tacheres and Lanús. Okay, so Dome Torrent, he played 26 matches, I believe is correct. It's hard with Brazil because you got state competitions, you got the National League, you got the Cup, you got the Libertadores. I mean, he's playing games in different competitions every 3 days, it seems like. But he won 15 of them, and he lost 5 or 6, and he drew 5 or 6, and he got fired. Now, they lost their last 2 games, 4-1 and 4-0. And he had that bad loss to Independiente del Valle in the group stage when they were in the midst of a ridiculous COVID outbreak with a whole lot of people out. They're in third place in the table. They're 1 point off the lead. They've lost twice in 15 games.
And you're
now,
fired.
They did lose the last 2, but
it's twice in 15 games.
Yes. Look, here's the deal. This is all you need to know about Brazil. They have 20 teams in the Brasileiro. That is the first division in the National League in Brazil. They have had 14 managerial changes so far. 14 in 20 rounds of play.
Wow.
That is where it stands. And he wasn't even the only one who's not going to be there for the next match day because you got the merry-go-round spinning with an Argentine manager in Brazil going to Spain, and we'll get into that. But Dome Torrent, and there's a really good article over at Globo Esporte that digs into it. It's column, and of course, I'm translating from Portuguese, which is not my specialty, but the gist of it is Flamengo going to do okay without Dome Torrent? Yeah, probably. They're a good team. They'll probably be fine. They could be better without Dome Torrent. There were some questions. He didn't always get along with everybody there. That's not a surprise from what we've heard about his time at New York City. Okay, fine. But there's never any time to build anything in Brazil. You can't create a project. You can't try to develop anything because you are at risk of 2 bad losses and being shown the door. Like, it's madness. So, there were questions before about Dome Tarrant and Major League Soccer, and yes, Atlanta United has a coaching availability here. They have a vacancy. And would that be a possibility? The discussion around that was would Dome Tarrant leave Flamengo to come back to MLS? And that was a no, and I would have agreed with that. Not at Flamengo, not at the reigning Copa Libertadores champions. Well, he doesn't have a job there anymore, so maybe it's a little bit different conversation. We'll just have to see what happens. But absolute madness in Brazil with Flamengo and firing Dome Tarrant.
I read earlier today from that Pep Guardiola was interviewed, and he said with the congestion of fixtures that essentially we are just managers of whoever's healthy. And I'm paraphrasing here. But there's no time to implement projects. There's no time to build anything. There's no time for development. It is mind-bending to me that we are in this world now where are we ever going to see a Saki again? Are we ever going to see a Lobanovsky? Are we ever going to see a Rinus Michels? Are we going to see anyone like that who can come in and say, Ralph Rangnick may be the most recent and the one guy, who says, okay, I have created this fundamental shift in the way the game is played. It's from here on out, like this is a new channel, a new way of doing business. I mean, Pep was from the Johan Cruyff school and has obviously made dramatic tweaks that have revolutionized the way that Barcelona played and probably one of the greatest club teams ever assembled. But I think you're right. I don't think there's any way in the world that in Europe or South America, you're going to have a manager who comes along and creates some sort of paradigm shift. It's going to have to be aim your slings and arrows. It's going to have to be someone from like MLS who has time to build and develop and tweak and alter. And if I'm a manager who is a bit of a romantic and wants to create something of my own, then I might be looking at that, because in England, it is stupid competition after stupid competition after stupid competition. Oh, here's the FA Cup, and then, here's regular season play as well. And as we were talking on the DM thread earlier, in the world of COVID, a relegation could be a death sentence now. So you really can't experiment and say, hey, look, we're going to run a 3-5-2 where our starting center back is actually going to be one of our best attackers. And I mean, you come up with dumb ideas. You can't do that anymore in England. In Italy, I think there's a little bit more leeway there, but I really don't see any managers there who are going to be shifting the way the game is played in totality. And Ralf Rangnick's stamp on Germany and how the Germans play and youth development has been taken and tweaked and altered, and they've come up with a system that really seems to work. But I mean, outside of somebody coming in one day and just saying, hey, we're running the pyramid today, we're going to run the inverted pyramid. I don't know who can do what with the time that's being allowed. And MLS is one of the few without that schedule congestion that would allow it. So it's, as fans of the game, we're going to have to start looking at things a bit differently. How sacrificing the money pull from these excessive competitions and the TV deals that come with it over the beauty of the game and how we can shape and grow organically as the years go by. Maybe I'm out of pocket. Maybe the Twitch pitch can join in and offer their thoughts. But, I think there's room for tactical advancement. And maybe we're getting a little nerdy here. There's room for tactical advancement if the managers are allowed time. to do that. And, Guardiola, had an opportunity at Barcelona that I don't think comes along very often. And he had time and the ability and the cachet to build something spectacular and beautiful.
Well, why did he get time, though? Because this is the other way you can pull it off.
Right.
He won everything his first year. He won everything you could win in a calendar year, and then he had as much time as he needed. And even Pep ran into pressures after that.
Right.
Burned with a point about Dome Tehran, and it is a factor, and I should have included it. I don't think it's the factor. I think the nature of Brazilian football is the problem here. But he was following Jorge Jesus, who wasn't there very long. Jorge Jesus came into Flamengo in June of 19, left in July of 20 to go to Benfica. He won the Copa Libertadores for Flamengo. He lost 4 matches in 57. He had an incredible run there. He won 5 trophies in Brazil. He won the Brasileiro. He won the Libertadores. He won the Brazilian Super Cup. He won the South American Super Cup. He won the state league, the Carioca Campeonato, and he was the runner-up in the Club World Cup. So that made it more difficult for Dome, don't get me wrong, but this would have happened regardless because he had 2 bad losses. His first 2 losses in 15 games, and it's, see ya, gotta go. Because he didn't win a title straight away.
Right.
Brazil, you don't have time to build anything anyway, but if you win your first year, you're going to buy yourself more time. How much time? Don't know. But you're going to buy yourself more time, and maybe that's the way some managers have to look at this when they go into these clubs. The problem is if you go into a club that isn't going to win anything day one, you're stuck. Like, you're going to be up against it straight away, and nobody's going to give you the time to build something. So the other job in Brazil that has opened up, we thought last week that there could be some hirings and firings during the international break. They kicked things off in a big way today. You've got Sheffield Wednesday firing their manager. You've got Celta Vigo firing their manager in Spain. You've got Fiorentina firing their manager. The Celta Vigo fire opened up a door for one of the teams that's ahead of Flamengo in the table right now, Internacional, at the top. Eduardo Caldet walked away. He's going to Spain. He's going to Celta Vigo. He's a guy who I was wondering if he became available, would he come to MLS? And I think he will at some point. He played for Philadelphia, played for the Fort Lauderdale Strikers in the NASL. Great job at Racing. Internacional, not really happy about Caldet leaving because they went to Buenos Aires. They paid Racing money to get him out of their contract. It is kind of funny to hear the president of Internacional say, "We thought we had this long-term project. We are surprised by this. We thought we would have him for 2020 and 2021.
That's a long-term
That's a long-term project in Brazil.
2021.
2 years. That's a long-term project.
Long-term project.
They were shocked that he wanted to leave.
I was in a long-term relationship. How long? 2 weeks.
2 years. It's the Tyrone Willingham reference of the show.
Man, they were blown away by this. So there were some other things that sounded like they were in play here. Caldet wanted the club to spend more money. The club said they weren't going to spend more money. There were some issues with the board. Usual stuff, especially when you're talking about Brazil. But you get an opportunity to go to La Liga. If you're Eduardo Caldet, you're going to go. So now Internacional and Flamengo, 2 of the top 3 teams in Brazil, have managerial vacancies because Brazil is insane.
And this is something that is going to have to be discussed, is that the shift in the power structure of teams, where for so long the players had so much power. Like in the old days, it was all the manager. Manager didn't like you, you're out the door. Play no games. The managers controlled every aspect of your life. I'll let the Twitch pitch and the listeners at home go as far as your imagination will take you. I promise you, the manager had a say-so in all of it. Then the players took control. The players were the ones who, as the transfer value went up, it's easier to move one person in the manager than it is a whole team of players. So obviously power shifted to them. And now in COVID land, and as without fans in the seats, profit margins tank. Teams have to make radical decisions, and now you're going to go to the one thing that can sustain you for a longer period of time, and that's the ideas of a manager who can build a sustainable program and allow your younger players time to grow and develop. And Atlanta United is now clearly not the only team out there that is looking for a high caliber manager. Some of these guys who are floating around in China who have gone way under the radar are going to be called up by some of these teams. Some people maybe, who have been on the sidelines for a little bit, like we saw with Fiorentina when they fired Iacchini and then brought in Cesare Prandelli. You have these guys who are going to be brought off the scrap heap. Keep in mind, Maurizio Sarri is still out there.
Yeah.
He was rumored to be the guy who was going to take over Fiorentina. Now, Cesare Prandelli's contract goes until next June. Keep in mind, like this coming up June. In which case, the idea is that at that point, there will be a resolution with Juve on any sort of unpaid monies and things like that. And then with that resolution, then Sarri could probably take over at Fiorentina. But there are a lot of names out there, right? Pochettino's still out there, which blows my mind that some team hasn't been like, hi, we are jettisoning this entire group. Come on.
Enter.
Oh, that's going to happen. There's no way in the world.
I can't believe it hasn't.
Well, I think that with Conte, he has a history of blowing some stupid games and then resurrecting. And we see Pazzo Inter come, we had Pazzo Juve, Pazzo Inter, where Conte comes up out of nowhere and ends up winning some games he's not supposed to win. That doesn't seem to be happening now for Inter at all. They have one win in the last 7 or 8 games. That's not sustainable at all. They're sitting there right now in 7th in the league. I don't think he's going to make it to the January window, much less next summer. So if you're Maurizio Pochettino, I'm holding out for the Inter job because I think it's the one that provides you the most time to do what you want. And it has players already there who you can come in and implement your system, and they are educated. You're not going to get a ton of pushback because they probably want Conte gone to begin with, so it'll be a smoother transition for you.
Pochettino, go to Inter.
Go to Inter.
Don't wait on Manchester United. Go to Inter.
No.
For your career, go to Inter.
And for anyone out there, I don't think it's any secret that as an AC Milan fan, this would be to my detriment if a manager of Pochettino's caliber went to Inter. But I have to call balls and strikes, and this would be a fantastic move for Inter and Pochettino. So it's a match made in heaven, but they have to pull the trigger and get rid of the guy with the muskrat staple gun to the top of his head at the moment. Hey, it is, man. That thing is. No.
So then, Nick, let me ask you this.
Yes, sir.
Philosophical question.
See.
Is this the worst year to be promoted into a league and possibly the worst year to be relegated out of a league?
Yes.
It's the worst year to get relegated out. I don't think it's the worst year to get promoted in.
Oh, I think it's the worst year to get promoted in. I think either way, because there's too much turmoil at the lower levels. If you're a team that gets promoted, you're probably a side that got by with superior tactics for a B level. However, you're probably with a side that doesn't have a ton of money to be able to invest in new players. And I'm going to say Monza in Serie B is probably the one exception to this rule. So, and that's only because Silvio Berlusconi, the previous owner of AC Milan, owns Monza. And he has resurrected that team from the pub league all the way up now to Serie B. So
that helps.
Yeah, that helps. And so I think that there are maybe 1 or 2 exceptions to this rule, but if you are a team that is on the rise to the top flight, it is a scary time to be there. But
and my question could apply to the same team for both ends of the question.
Yeah, and so if you get relegated, how long is that ownership going to keep holding on to that asset? Because it is a very swift plummet into oblivion in this world. Look at the championship. They what do we have?
Lanús just scored.
We have some very important news from Dexerto.com. Breaking news on esports gaming and streamers. Ban alert. PSG and Brazil football superstar Neymar has been banned from Twitch.
Neymar.
He got banned because he accidentally leaked the phone number of Richarlison, his Brazil teammate.
Oh. Oops.
He got banned from Twitch. He got the red card. I mean, and can I ask you this about Neymar real quick? Sorry to just completely change the subject, but that's how the show's going to go tonight. It's going to be madness. So Neymar has been injured for PSG. He hasn't played.
Check.
He's missed some games. Mm-hmm. He went to South America for the World Cup qualifying matches despite the groin injury. Tite called him in, brought him in for the matches against Venezuela and Uruguay. He said that the doctor of the Brazilian team, Dr. Rodrigo Lasmar, said that he expects Neymar to be available for the second game after an intensive week of training with Brazil.
Okay.
If I'm PSG, no and no.
Yeah, no twice.
But maybe one of the reasons why they said, well, I guess we don't really have a choice here is allegedly, and this is allegedly, Julien Menard of Telefoot says that Neymar has told PSG sporting director Leonardo that he wants to re-sign with the club. He is under contract through 2022, so one more season after this one, and PSG have not offered him a new deal yet, and he is saying he wants to sign a new deal. Shenanigans?
Shenanigans.
I'll say shenanigans.
I think it's shenanigans.
But if you're PSG, you're probably the one team in the world that can let anybody walk from your squad and be okay.
Because then you'll pick up Cristiano Ronaldo.
Right. Which is what's going to happen. In case people have been not paying attention to this, allegedly Juve is ready to move on from Cristiano Ronaldo. That his, 37 million?
It's a lot. It's a gigantic chunk of money. Sport in Spain, along with everybody else who talks about soccer today, is saying that they're not going to give the renewal of his contract. They're going to put him in the transfer market next summer. They invested $100 million in him in 2018, and do you want to get something back now? It's probably the last chance you're going to get.
So, if we start doing the dominoes, who's the player most likely to leave PSG in the summer?
Mbappe.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mbappe to Real.
Right. So Mbappe goes to Real Madrid.
Big chunk of money going that way.
A particular gap that could be filled by one superstar who can come in and they just start playing Ring Around the Rosie on the calendar. Okay. Is it Carnival right now in Brazil? Okay. Neymar is going to get injured any day now, and he'll be out for about a month. So, Cristiano, we need you to carry this period. And when this is done, you'll have an injury, wink, wink, nudge, nudge, and then you'll sit out until our next Champions League game, in which case you'll play in that one, get re-injured, and then you'll probably sit out another week or two. And call it. Yes, call the black helicopters. Call them up.
Open the hangar.
Open up. Have them descend through the roof. Look, there's only a few clubs in the world that can afford Ronaldo right now. His wages is a transfer fee. PSG's one of them.
There might be one because he's not going back to Real Madrid. I mean, there's nobody else.
No,
where else in the Ring Around the Rosie world of the world's richest football clubs is left for him to go?
Is he going to go back to Manchester United?
Right. And for those forgetting, the federal charge against him has not been removed here in the United States.
No, there's that.
The local charge has, the federal charge has not. So he ain't coming to MLS.
No.
I think he would view it as a step down to go to China.
No, not yet.
So he's going to go to the one major Champions League participant out there who offers him a shot at Champions League glory, offers him a shot to win another title in another major league, which gives him another leg up in his mind over Lionel Messi. Where is that? Ligue 1. That's not black helicopters. That's all very much within the realm of possibility. I mean, and here's the thing. It provides Juve an out for any struggles that Pirlo goes through from now, and from the minute Ronaldo steps off the training ground there and goes to the airport, Juve has a built-in excuse to not win another Scudetto. They could say, hey, look, we have a manager. We're giving him time. He's building something special here. We're going to let him work. And I think they want to build around Dybala. They want to build around, say whatever you want, McKennie. They're going to build up around these younger guys.
Who's 1/5 the price.
Who's 1/5 the price. And this is going to be borderline Dave Ramsey talk here, but if there is such thing as addition through subtraction. You're not going to get the transfer fee that you want. We can all pretend that we live in a FIFA universe or football manager universe that, okay, I can sell this aging asset for maximum value and still be A-okay because the computer program says that Ronaldo and Messi should go for maximum value. That doesn't exist in the real world. So what do we do instead? We need to get the wages off the books. All right. If I have two perfectly functioning cars in my driveway, I've taken a radical decrease in pay. What am I going to get rid of? Oh, yeah, the Ferrari that's sitting in the garage. Yeah, let's sell that thing first and try to at least be budget compliant, and then we can go from there. Because Italy's going through their second spike, which, if you look at any of the data, started in August with vacation. Keep in mind, in Italy, everyone goes on vacation the entire month of August. They go travel around. Even my cousins, who were very, very careful, they still traveled. There was the kickoff of the spike. They're in the middle of it now. They're going through new lockdown procedures. I don't think anyone's getting back in the stands anytime soon. And we have to, as soccer fans, understand that Messi and Ronaldo, they're on the Rushmore of all-time greats. But they're not immortal, and they're getting older. Their skills are not going to, their physical ability is not going to peak magically. So teams like Barcelona, they need to shed that salary. Let that man go. Don't be stupid. Let the man go. Juventus, are you any closer today to winning the Champions League than you were in 2018 when you first signed Ronaldo? Absolutely not. Mm-mm. You really think this team could step on the field against Bayern Munich right now and walk out winners? The answer is no.
Not right now.
You're not. Bayern Munich would raise the hand of fury, like cloaked in blue flame, and just like the old kung fu movies when the Shaolin master grabs the student and knocks him through a concrete wall. That's exactly what Bayern Munich would do to Juve right now. So don't pretend that Bayern's that you can compete with the Bayern Munichs of the world, or hell, even the Man Cities of the world. It's not happening. So you have to go ahead and start the rebuild. You start that by getting Cristiano Ronaldo's wages off the books, and that's the new world. It's the new world. If you're not going to do a salary cap, you have to be mindful of your spending. And I get a ton of grief whenever I say things like you got to let Messi and Ronaldo go. People are like, they're so stupid. Their space. No, their wages are too high. The wages are too high. If you work 2 part-time jobs, you are not getting an apartment in Buckhead. It's out of your price range. If you have no fans in your stadiums and you do not have a way to generate game day revenue outside of what you're getting from your TV deal, and in Serie A, it's pretty crappy, you can't go higher up than your means allow. I'm sorry, you can't. It's not like Loch Ness, right? Loch Ness FC, who obviously have very low wages, made obscenely awesome kits, sold them and funded themselves for the next 3 years in the process. Juve can't do that. There's too much overhead. Barcelona can't do that. There's too much overhead. And you're not going to get any transfer value for Messi. No one's paying 100-something million when his contract ends next, what? When does it end? In the summer?
Messi in the summer.
Yeah. So he can sign a pre-contract when?
January.
Yeah, January. You think anybody's going to pay a transfer fee for that?
No. Defensa scored in the second minute, by the way.
There we go. Defensive. Big
Yeah,
ups.
horrible giveaway by Cordoba. And
plus 124.
I said it was a good number. I said it was a very good number. Hernan Crespo, one of the most interesting managers in South America right now, just saying.
Love Crespo.
I
wore the blue and black for a little bit. I love Crespo.
I really like what he's doing with Defensa. They are a fun team to watch right now.
That's right. Now, as we were saying,
got a couple updates on stuff we've been talking about already. So it looks like Internacional has a manager in Brazil.
Okay.
Abel Braga. Might not be a name you know. He's probably managed your favorite team at some point in his career. He is 68. And you have to scroll to get to all the teams he's managed on his Wikipedia page. He was at Flamengo before Jorge Jesus, and then he left. And then Jorge Jesus won, and then he went to Cruzeiro, and that didn't last very long because Jorge Jesus wasn't at Flamengo that long. And this guy's been in 2 other teams since that time. His CV lately, Vasco to start this season, he's not there anymore. Cruzeiro in 2019, he's not there anymore. He was at Flamengo before July of 2019. He might go back. He was at Fluminense for a year. Okay, he was at Al Jazeera. He was at Internacional in 2014. He was at Fluminense before that. Yes, the second time. There's probably like 6 or 7 other stops at Fluminense. Al Jazeera again before that in 2008 to 2011. That was a long stint. Internacional again. This would be probably the 5th or 6th or 7th or 8th time.
He just keeps ringing the same doorbells, and they keep answering.
Yep. Good grief. Central Cordoba scored. It's 1-1 in the 4th minute. This game's insanity. Fluminense, Flamengo. So he's been at Flamengo like 6 or 7 times. Ponte Preta, Paranaense, Botafogo, Atlético Mineiro. He was at Marseille for like, how long was he at Marseille? Good grief. It's 1 year. So he didn't even make a whole season at Marseille in 2000. He was dismissed in November. They won 5 of 16 games. Then he was at Vasco before that, Paraná, Coritiba, Bahia, Paranaense, Guarani, Internacional in 1995, so he might go back again. Vasco, Vitória de Setúbal, Belenenses, Internacional again in 1991, Internacional again from 1988 to 89. He's been at Internacional 75 times in his career. And he might be back for 76.
That guy's CV reads like The Stand.
It's amazing.
It's like the unabridged version. It's that thick, paperback.
It is amazing.
It's like the Brian Van Gorder of South America.
Yes.
Whoa.
And he's going to go back to the Brazilian leaders. And he left Flamengo. This is just what it said. I haven't went to the article just yet. Talking about his time at Flamengo, he won the Carioca Campeonato. It wasn't Jorge Jesus, unless Jorge Jesus won it the next year because it's a state league and not many people pay attention in the national scheme of things. But after that, he resigned on May 29 after being contested by fans. And I don't know.
Like me, I'm out.
I don't know exactly what that means. Business Standard had the article. Resigned, ending weeks of speculation about his future. I felt like I didn't have support and was isolated at times. What I can say is that Flamengo are bigger than this. The club is going to flourish because of all the work that has been done in the last few years and because of its greatness. Blah, 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 blah. So that's about it. But I don't accept betrayal, he said.
Whoa.
So that's rough. And he left and he's been 2 places, and now he's going to go to Internacional. Yeah, I mean, it's going to be fun.
Trail.
Madness. Burns says he must live in Rio. Most of those clubs are from Rio. Winter Wind is like, wow. This is nuts.
This is a Matt Schaub level career, though. I mean, not as many stops. Like Schaub hasn't had as many stops, but like, man, like Josh McCown, kind of like, I've played for every team in the league, some of them a couple times, and I'm still kicking around in my late 30s. That kind of thing. Good God.
It's true. It's true, and he'll be going to the Brazilian leaders. It looks like Internacional as the merry-go-round continues.
God, that's it. Dudes can just fail up, can't they? Dudes can just fail up.
Up, down, sideways, whatever.
Yeah.
Who knows? You
Dudes
never know
can
where you'll
just
end
Well,
up.
if you think
up.
of Brazil, if you think of Brazil as like the SEC of South America, then yeah, yes. Kevin Steele can get 70 points dropped on him in an Orange Bowl and land an SEC defensive coordinator gig the next year, and then like 2 more the next 2 years. So yes, they can.
Blows my mind.
I need to get deeper into the Brazilian league because this thing is insane.
We have to get our man Rodrigo back on.
Yeah, we might need an Abel Braga primer from your boy Rodrigo. Just record an interview with him. Just ask him about Abel Braga and all 543 different stops he's had in his career.
Yes.
I need the info. All right, Jarrett's with us, and I've been saving some Scottish news for you, Jarrett.
Oh,
There's a lot of news,
hate
by
you
the
too.
way, and we're going to try to hit as much of it as possible. But I've been saving the Scottish news just for you. The Crickets are ready, aren't they?
Yeah, the Crickets are
that's
appropriate.
the standard response to the SPFL these days.
Yeah,
I mean, as it stands right now, yeah.
yeah, I think that's accurate. So,
I mean, the only thing I've shared with you all about the SPFL this week was Sam Cosgrove's goal for Aberdeen that was scored because a defender, while trying to play route one, hit it in the back of the head of somebody, and then it bounced backwards to Sam Cosgrove, who just walks it in, and it's a nice outside of the foot little chip, but still, man, y'all only ever pop up for bad things. Thanks, Scotland. Also, Rangers and Celtic both lost in Europa League and hurt their chances at promoting themselves through the coefficient. So, great job, everyone.
we'll see. Speaking of Rangers, I'm glad you brought them up because that's what the news is about. First off, the manager of the month and player of the month for October are on the Rangers side, Steven Gerrard and Connor Goldson. Stevie G.
Both of whom I have no problem with.
Yeah, Stevie G doing pretty good. Stevie G's going to have some money to work with, it sounds like. So, Rangers, this doesn't make a lot of sense to me because I don't understand how some of these clubs are structured in Scotland. It feels like it's monopoly money being thrown out on the table and supposed to actually mean real money. By the way, Defensa just scored in the 10th minute. It's 2-1 with 3 goals in 10 minutes.
Madness.
Beautiful free kick.
Madness.
Beautiful free
Do
kick.
not tolerate betrayal.
Yeah, that's an
Good
amazing
tries.
free
Good
kick.
tries.
Who had that? That was good stuff. Benitez, very good. Benitez has been so good so far this season. Okay, so Rangers was like out of money how long ago? 3 years ago, 4 years ago? Has it been that long?
Yeah, blame
Man,
Craig
it's-
White.
Yeah, blame Craig White. John and I could do an entire thing just on that.
When did they
even-
get
even
back
as
into the Premier League, the Scottish Premier
God,
League?
I think it was 2 or 3 years ago.
Okay, so it hasn't been long.
No, but this is the first year they've been able to, like, where you look at it and go, wow, that's competent.
No, for
I mean,
sure.
Even last year, even last year they were good, but they had holes in there, and you're like, that might fall apart, and then it did fall apart after January.
Now,
But
they
this year
might
you're
not
kinda
fall
like,
apart in January this time, though, because they've got money that has come into
They
the
haven't
coffers.
given up a goal in the league this year.
Yeah, but they've got money now, it looks like. So somehow, and this is where I get confused. So Stuart Gibson is based in Asia. He increased his shareholding in the club to 8.27. That's the fourth biggest shareholder, some distance behind the former chairman and largest overall shareholder, Dave King. So King stepped down as the chairman. He currently owns 22% of the club. He was hoping to announce additional investment from Gibson before he stepped down. He didn't. There's a pandemic. Things got weird. But somehow they found some money. £4 million have been added to the club's coffers here recently. According to filings at Companies House, 19,314,931 new shares valued at 20 pence have been allotted, and although this means another financial bonanza of sorts, it is unsure just who exactly has snapped up such an allocation.
Yes.
So do they just make new shares here, basically?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, so they just made up new shares to sell.
They just printed more money, yeah.
To print more money to bring in £4 million.
Money, raise funds.
Well, it's the difference between preferred stock and standard shares. I'm sure they probably carved out a certain amount for standard shares and kept the preferred stock amongst the
Class B preferred shares.
So they made up some monopoly money and they sold it for some real money. And they have £4 million that came in. They posted a loss of £11.3 million in their latest financial reports. But this $4 million might help them go into the market in January and actually have some money to spend. And if Stevie G gets them into the knockout phase, then they'd have even more money to spend, and they could be in really good shape.
Right there.
Well, they're angling at both.
To get to the knockout ring. I think they're absolutely angling. Despite the loss last week, they're in good shape, and they've been playing well in Europe, even going into last year. They're angling we want to have a little bit of money throw down in January because you got through, I forget who they beat last year in the round of 32, but they got through round of 32, and they got smacked around by, I think it was Leverkusen or Mönchengladbach, one of the German clubs.
I think it was Mönchengladbach.
Yes, a German team.
Yes,
slapped them around, and they're feeling froggy. That means they can drop $3 million on somebody and bring somebody in who they think they can get them over the hump out of the round of 16 into the quarterfinals. Hell yeah, they're going to do it.
In Scotland today.
They're just printing money in Scotland today. That's what they're doing. They're just making things up to come up with more things to sell, and then there you go.
Which, John, tell me, has that ever hurt a certain team in Scotland, maybe one we're talking about, of kind of getting creative with contracts and, just keep pouring money in and, kind of creating monopoly money, but not necessarily having anything solvent on the other side?
That ain't true!
How it works. Yeah, it is, Gundy.
I mean...
Isn't this what got them in trouble the first time?
Same damn song.
Isn't this exactly? I mean, I don't know all the details, but isn't this what they did before?
It's one of those things like I'm trying to think of the sensation. You can basically take your hand and swipe it through like molten material because the oxygen around your hand provides like a barrier for that flash amount of time. You can flash your hand through a molten material for a second and not get burned. You can do this if you're going to be able to be solvent on the other side. You do this too much, though, you leave your hand in the molten iron too long, you're going to get burned. So doing this once or twice, I think it's doable for them, absolutely. And I think they are in a position, and given how they performed in Europe, I don't necessarily blame them for doing it, but you just have to be careful that you don't get carried away with it, you don't do it too much.
Or, you don't do it during a pandemic where you have no revenue coming in.
Yeah, too. But that you don't end up in a situation where you're behind the 8 ball again and you go back into administration again because
I'm sorry. This is frog on a skillet, Jarrett. This is what this is to me.
This is what? This is what? You go to Valdosta and you start dropping frog in a skillet?
Thanks for tuning in to High School Countdown. This is live from Valdosta Radio. It's frog on a skillet time right down here now.
What just happened?
What's the old analogy where if
frog in a pot of boiling water? If you put the frog in a pot of boiling water, if you slowly heat up the water, the frog will die. If you put him in the hot water right away, it jumps out. I think this is doable. I think for Rangers, this is doable, but it has to be incredibly tightly controlled. And you
good luck on that.
If you're, I know, and why am I the one trying to be civil about Rangers? What the actual hell's going on?
I don't know.
This whole segment is amazing. We have a new T-shirt, frog on a skillet.
Frog in a skillet time. That is absolutely a T-shirt.
I just couldn't think of the boiling water analogy. That's what it just,
Instead of the frog in the boiling water, which Hutcho says is a bogus legend, by the way. You go the frog in a skillet.
I don't care if the legend's bogus or not. We're going to make frog on a skillet onto a shirt.
Oh,
and it's used next year in the middle of games.
Yeah, that's going to make its way into a broadcast.
And we have Jared being civil about Rangers. This is
See what
like
I'm
happens?
trying to be realistic
Yeah.
about
it's
it.
the
'cause
upside down.
I got a couple. Maybe you won't be realistic when I add a little bit of extra information. So they've raised 12 million pounds in share
Sure they
issues
have.
in the past month.
which is amazing considering they passed on selling a Buffalo last year, and Morales, like they dropped 8 goals on someone's head the other day, and Morales didn't score.
Was
Like
it
the dude is
Hibbs?
basically, I think it was Hibbs, because I think Hibbs tried to basically come out and be like, "We're going to challenge you," and Rangers went, "Okay, cool. We're just going to sit back and just keep hitting you over and over and over and over and over." It basically turned into a game of Mike Tyson's Punch Out, where Rangers just waited for the combination, then hit based off the combination.
So November 3rd, they sold 19 million shares for 4 million
Okay.
pounds. October 5th, they sold 42 million shares worth 8 million pounds. The shares were issued at the price of 20 pence. This feels really weird.
Yeah.
I don't know all the details of how they've restructured. I don't know how they can pull all of this stuff off, but this feels
At 20 cents a
really,
share.
really odd.
This feels like hedging futures, is what it feels like.
Yeah.
Hey, that's
This
right.
feels like you are hedging futures hard.
Oh, yeah.
They're hedging it on
winning Scotland, and you're hedging it on winning not necessarily all of Europe, but getting far in Europa League, which, I mean, let's be honest, Europa League money's nice. It ain't Champions League money, y'all.
But you're forgetting the third thing they're hedging it on, the coefficient, and getting into the group stage of Champions League to start next season. I think that's the real hedge. Because right now,
Does 10th place drop you? Scotland can theoretically get up to 10th place in the coefficient. Does that put them
11th does. 11th puts them into the group stage. The
just one?
Just
Yeah.
one. Just the Premiership winners qualify automatically for the group stage. That's the hedge.
Okay.
The hedge is to not let Celtic get their 10th title in a row. The hedge is to get
There's
as
a good
deep into the
chance that
Europa League
Rangers
as you
is
can.
Going to do that.
It's possible, yeah. So you pull those two off. If you win the Scottish Premiership and the coefficient is good, which they can help themselves by getting deep into the Europa League, then they go straight into the group stage of the Champions League next year. That's the bet. But if it doesn't work,
Ironically, Celtic's inability to get out of their own way in Europe might end up dooming Scotland. Celtic got blown off the field by a Spartak Prague team that was missing 7 guys and playing a 17-year-old in Glasgow. I mean, Celtic might actually sabotage this for Rangers on accident.
Garrett, how does Lennon still have a job? I never call for people to lose their job. I really don't. I'm completely against the practice of doing that, but that man has no business running that side. And that Celtic have entrusted him to get them to 10 is baffling. Baffling. Yes.
They're frog on a skillet, man.
On a scale,
I still don't
They
know
are.
what this means yet. I'm waiting to see.
They're comfortable. It's the same feeling of like, hey, every time this has been close in the last 9 years, it always works out. So clearly it will work out this time. But it might not. I mean,
What happens when
You've
you put
had
the
it-
frog
you-
on a skillet, man?
they are the frog on the skillet, and they think we've always hopped off the skillet. Well, you might not be able to hop off the skillet. Your feet might be stuck to the skillet, and you might cook there. That's the life you're looking at right now. I mean, I don't know what it takes. I think, okay, they beat Motherwell 4-1 Sunday. Moya Elanusi on loan from Southampton, by the way, where apparently he couldn't get on the field, but he's the only guy who can score in Europe for Celtic. Scored against AC Milan, and then scored 2 against Lille before Celtic collapsed in the second half. Like, he's the only guy who apparently can consistently score goals. I think if they'd lost to Motherwell, the calls would have been intense. But their ability to basically just out-talent lower teams, because the salary is so exponentially different in Scotland from team to team versus other leagues, especially in Europe. I mean, it's going to take something. I think it would take like a dismantling at the hands of Rangers, like we saw back in 2016, I think it was, when Moussa Dembele dropped like a perfect hat trick on Rangers, and like the lasting image of that game is for me is still watching Philip Sinderos basically sliding across the grass, like trying to stop shots and being unable to do so, and then getting sent off like 2 minutes later when he intentionally handballed. And I'm not convinced he didn't do it just to get off the field because he was embarrassed about having to play with that Rangers team that year. But they were bad, and it was their first year back up. It was bad, but I mean, I don't know what I think it would take. Like, you would have to get pantsed by Rangers to really have the calls get even louder. And I don't know if you do that. I don't know if they get off the skillet before it's too late, because that's a dude who manages not necessarily by tactics. He's still using a lot of the guys that Brendan Rodgers had. Rodgers does we talked about this last week or 2 weeks ago, excuse me. Rodgers is one of the only coaches we can come up with who plays a progressive style, right?
Somewhat, yeah.
Well, at least he wants to play with the ball at his feet.
Yes, that would
play through the middle.
That would be progressive in England. Yes.
Exactly.
Sorry, England.
We're working with a sliding scale in England.
That's true. I'm going to get hate mail.
Lennon still wants to play the caveman route one. Oh, we're going to build down the wings and cross it in. Well, guess what? You got two guys who are a lot of fun in Frimpong and Laxalt. Neither one of them can hit a bull in the ass with a base fiddle with a cross right now. So that's kind of a problem.
It's garbage.
It is, and you're still trying to play route one caveman ball.
That's also not garbage. He ain't great, but he's not garbage.
It's garbage.
I feel the need to chime in on that one. I have some experience with this dude. He's not garbage.
Gundy's talking more about the style.
Laxalt is what people thought Jurgen Damm was going to be. He's quick, he's tenacious, but he couldn't cross his way, out of a paper bag if he had directions and a lighter. But I mean, you're still trying to play caveman football with these guys who are not really caveman players, and the game is catching up and passing you by as things go along. You can't do it anymore. And that was 2013, 2012 era you're talking about, where you were able to play like that. The game moves fast in, a little less than a decade.
Yeah.
So
he's Coach Paul Johnson is what you're saying.
But he's not going to win you. He's not going to win you games tactically. And if the rah-rah spirit and the, win one for the Kipper isn't working, and he can't get them up for the game like you saw against Sparta Prague, then you have all of the red sirens going off when the guy who's kind of the rah-rah manager can't get guys to rah-rah. Ooh. You looked flat against a team missing 7 starting players who came across the continent about as long as a trip as you're going to take in European football.
Which was a bit shocking.
And you looked flat when they came to your house missing 7 guys because of COVID. And they just kept hitting you on the counter and put up 4 goals on you.
Quick question, Jarrett. Burned asks on the Twitch pitch about the differences between the club coefficient and the country coefficient. To get into the group stage, it's based off the country's coefficient. Now, what the clubs do affects that, right? But can you explain this? Is it easy to?
So, there's Scotland coefficient's a good account to follow on this. They break it down really well, and they give you basically scenarios where everything stands, how other countries can impact as well. But basically, performance in Europe is going to impact the coefficient in where we stand right now.
I guess the club coefficients do affect like the country coefficient, but it's the country one. Okay, got it.
Yeah, they're going to impact the country coefficient. The country coefficient is going to determine, hey, we give 1 Champions League group stage slot to Scotland because they're slotted in 11.
Yeah, they're 11 right now. That would get them into the group stage as it stands. But I think the threat is Ukraine, right?
I believe so. I'd have to look at it. Yes. I don't have it up in front of me.
Yeah, the Ukraine is the threat.
I think they were the ones that have got a lot of possibilities to jump Scotland. And if you're 12, you don't get into the group stage automatically, but I think 11 does.
And this is one of the infuriating things about watching Celtic, drop an egg against Fenerbahce, whoever it was, the Hungarian team who's in Champions League, who beat Celtic to get to the playoff to get there, is you missed out on the potential of a Champions League draw where you have a higher weighted coefficient and a better chance to move up.
Yep, and Shakhtar is going to do that for Ukraine. So I mean, you're in a tough spot. Okay, we got tons of different bits of news. I'm going to bounce around just a little bit to try to hit some of this because we've got games from the weekend. We've got games coming up with national team stuff. It's very, very wild at the moment. Did you guys see Der Klassiker, Bayern Munich, Borussia Dortmund?
Yes.
3-2 for Bayern Munich.
I saw enough.
The clip you need to see, if you haven't seen it, because this is the one bad thing that happened for Bayern, is Joshua Kimmich gets injured, meniscus surgery on Sunday, sidelined until January. He was injured trying to foul Erling Haaland, trying to foul him, and he bounced off like he was nothing.
That's a unit. That dude is a unit.
His knee exploded trying to foul this man. It was crazy to see that replay. Watch it in slow-mo because you see Kimmich throw his whole body, everything he's got at Haaland, and Haaland doesn't even, flinch.
And he bounced.
It's madness. Not enough for Dortmund, though. They did make it interesting, and Central Cordoba is equalized in Argentina because this game's insane. At 28th minute, it's 2-2. 2-2. We might have a competitor to go hang out with our friend Nicholas Bentner. We might have somebody that we could get in a pay-per-view battle.
Wait, what?
Yes. And I did not know this, and Bernd is probably going to be on point with this one. Max Kruse. He's in the Bundesliga back. He went to Turkey last year. 13 years with Werder Bremen, Freiburg, Wolfsburg, Borussia Mönchengladbach, among other teams. 32 years old. This is the money shot here. 32 years old, often angered club bosses and coaches with his late-night poker games, flashy cars, or love of chocolate spread.
Okay.
He has...
As opposed to hazelnut spread?
I guess. He's scoring goals like crazy with Union Berlin. So Sunday, he matched the all-time league record for most successful penalties in a row. 16 of 16. And he assisted on 2 more goals. They won 5-0.
That is some Balotelli energy.
Yeah. I'd like to see him across the poker table from Bentner with maybe a tub of chocolate spread in the middle.
Oh, he would take Bentner for everything.
I think he would. I think he probably would. I don't know about Bentner's intelligence, maybe at times.
Yeah.
Is that fair?
How do I put this gently?
Is that fair?
You ain't smart, son.
I'm kind of thinking he might not
him
be.
an idiot in the most polite manner possible?
I mean, he wrote about it. I'm just saying he did. So World Series of Poker, book it. I need the football battle between Kruse and Bentner. Yeah. Okay. Today is the birthday of one of the greatest Italians to ever play the game. Nick, do you know who that is?
No.
46th birthday.
Del Piero.
Yes, it is Alessandro Del Piero's birthday. What are your thoughts on Alessandro Del Piero, Nick?
Look, I love Alessandro Del Piero. Even though he was a Juve player, Juve through and through, with the national team, that man did everything that was asked of him, including I think there was one game where he came in and played outside back. He is a guy who I will never forget that night in Dortmund when you had that absurd counter started by Fabio Cannavaro that Totti essentially stole off of his feet, and which was one of the greatest counters, I think, in World Cup history that led to Del Piero with that lifting shot right over Oliver Kahn, right into the goal, and then you saw the German girl crying. And I was actually down at Playa del Carmen on that particular game, and I watched some, which I had no idea was a huge hangout for Italians, shocking and amazing, and I watched some Italian woman suddenly gain super strength and hoist her child up and start going like, and like the kid is like flying in the air. So I have very fond memories of Del Piero, and he was scary on the ball. His touch, his speed, especially on the counter, was something you really wanted no part of. So happy birthday, auguri, Del Piero. Much love.
I will toast you with my Fernetti Coke.
There you go.
Okay. Jason, I have a question for you.
What is your question?
How do you prepare your mate?
How do I prepare my mate?
Yes.
In what way? What are we getting at?
Basically, to get it to how you like it, how do you prepare your yerba mate? And instead of buying it, if you did it from scratch, how do you do it?
Well,
I'm the whole thing.
Like, okay. I mean, I'm a little confused. Here's what I do, because I have the mate at home.
Right.
I mean, you don't really buy mate. You're not going to go to the store, or you're not going to go to the tea shop and buy mate generally. I don't even know if they sell it that way. So you're going to, the way I do it is I will heat up water, and different mates like respond to different amounts of heat with the water. You don't want the water to be boiling. It's not like tea where you're boiling it. That hasn't been good to me. Where I've got the water too hot occasionally, it doesn't taste as good. It's more bitter. So it depends on the mate too. Like the one that I've been drinking lately, Canaria Serena. It's made in Brazil, but it's popular with the Uruguayans. I'll go about half of my cup. It's a ceramic gourd. I didn't go with the authentic gourd because I didn't exactly know how to cure it and make sure it stays good and all that stuff. So I'll go about half to 2/3 full with the mate, the loose leaf in there. The Serena, the Canarias is much finer cut. The Cruz de Malta, which I'll have occasionally too, is like more stems and leaves. The other one's like finer cut. So I'll go about 2/3 to a half full, depending on how much I want, how strong I want it. Then I will tilt it to where you put the bombilla in on the side where you don't have as much of the mate in to start. Tilt it. I'll pour a little bit of cold water on it just to kind of. And this is a process. This doesn't just, you don't just do it.
It's substantial.
It's substantial. So I didn't even tell you first. First, when you put the mate in the gourd, you have to shake it back and forth to get some of the powder out because it's very loose.
Does one shake it like a Polaroid picture?
No, not really. You're not shaking it like that. It's more of like a back and forth motion because you want to get
the windows to the wall. Then
yes, there you go, Little John style. You want to get some of that powder out. You wash your hand. You get that done. Okay, cool. Then you tilt it. Then you pour a little bit of cold water on it. It's like the dummy water, I think is what they call it. I'm sure it has a much fancier name in Argentina. Dummy water is what I'll go with. Pour a little bit of cold water on it. Then I'll pour the hot water in on the side where the bombilla is, and I'll fill it up. And usually that first time it kind of comes down a little bit. Then I'll put some more water in. Then you just keep filling it while you get flavor.
Okay, because the reason I asked is that I'm looking at a particular individual's approach, and I was comparing his to yours.
Okay, whose are you looking at?
Well, no, I'm going to give you his approach first, and then I'll tell you who it is.
I mean, he's probably doing it better than I am because he's probably been drinking mate a whole lot longer than I have.
This individual fills his gourd 2/3 full, covers with his hand, and shakes to settle.
Yep.
Tilts at a 45-degree angle.
Yep.
Pours a bit of room temperature water in. Inserts the bombilla and adds 160-degree water.
I don't measure to see how hot my water is. I get it to where it's not boiling, but it's hot.
So this individual got these tips from Sergio Aguero.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I mean, look, these guys, again, they know more than I do about this stuff. They've got the real gourds, too, probably. So.
Yeah, and this individual's name is J.J. Watt.
Oh, J.J. Watt drinking the mate now. Okay.
Uh-huh.
Very nice.
He's all in on football and football life. He married him. He married him a player, and now he's all in. Guys taking mate advice from Sergio Aguero. He's looking at buying a team. JJ Watt's all in.
Wasn't he looking at getting in on the Houston Dynamo or something?
No, he's looking at Real Salt Lake. He was looking at RSL and Utah Royals. No, she's in Chicago.
She moved in Chicago.
Oh, she's in Chicago.
No, when she was moving to RSL.
When Kalia was traded from Houston to Chicago on opening day, he's sitting there being the husband watching the match, and he's got all the Chicago Red Stars gear on. Nothing like a Houston Texans defensive end wearing Chicago Red Stars gear.
That dude is a comic book character.
He's ridiculous. He's like almost like
a comic book character.
Exactly.
He's almost like Batista in that he doesn't look like human because he's so like cartoonishly large.
Looks like he's drawn by Frank Miller.
Yes.
Right.
It's ridiculous. Okay.
So, question from the Twitter world.
What do we have on the Twitter world?
Nathan Pugh has asked who's producing tonight. I told him virtual producer Pierre Luigi is working tonight.
Okay.
He wanted to know who do they have the sound mixer figured out? Is Pierre Luigi doing a decent? I suppose.
I think so. I can't control all of y'all's individual volumes, sadly.
Okay.
You're all on one channel. Colonel, it might be a 3-hour show.
That's
it's feeling like it.
I mean, there's a lot to talk about.
Yeah.
Something will probably break.
Oh, probably. No, it definitely will.
Is it still 2-2?
Yes, it is 2-2. I think John is the culprit for the one being very low. That's the problem. But there's nothing we can do. So sorry, Nathan Pugh. He's on the road tonight.
A temporary thing.
He's in Valdosta.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Yeah. And it probably was a temporary thing too.
Yeah, the Atlanta volume and the Valdosta volume are apparently two different things.
Yes, you're gonna have to yell.
To be fair, the Valdosta volume sounds like a really sketchy, really shadily run like AFL 3 franchise.
Yeah, they play in the Civic Center in Valdosta.
Oh hell yeah,
for sure.
They play in the gym over at Lowndes High. Who are you kidding?
That's probably true.
Well, they got to have enough room for the 50.
And they got it. They've got it.
That's true. Okay, back to the news. So, Gennaro Gattuso's in the news. Our boy.
I heard of him.
He's in the news. He is not one to tolerate a lack of effort. Is how this was phrased.
MLS Cup winner Gennaro Gattuso?
Potentially, yes. He was not happy about how the team played when they won in the Europa League at Rijeka. Dropped Mario Rui and Fawzi Goulam from Sunday's match because he was not pleased with their efforts in training. But he didn't tell them before the trip.
No.
I sent them to the stands because they were strolling around in training, he said after the win. Made the trip, traveled to Bologna, told them after they arrived. He said, it is too easy to be at home on the couch. I brought them with us because they are part of the squad, but they didn't deserve to play. This is a team that needs to be kept on their toes. We still have too many off days.
Wow.
Gennaro, you're playing like 3 games a week. You don't have off days. There's no off days.
That means nothing. That doesn't mean anything to that man.
No, it doesn't mean anything to that man. That's true.
No. It means absolutely. You're talking about a guy who used to have to miss games because he stabbed dudes with forks.
It's true.
Like, he had to miss games.
He left everything out there, and he expects literally nothing less from everyone on his team.
He's the one guy, and I say this with zero sarcasm. He's the one athlete I've shot video and photos at NFL games, college. He's the one guy who I thought was legitimately going to come over the press barrier and attack me for taking photos. It was during the warm-up of the Milan Club America game. My son, I think, was about 72 hours old. I was feeling pretty good. Had the camera out, snapping pictures. I noticed that nobody else was snapping pictures, so I was like, well, forget it. I'm going to keep snapping pictures. And I have one shot of Gattuso staring right down the barrel of my lens, and I'm just thinking, that guy's about to come over here and kill. One of my favorite players of all time is going to jump this rail and kill me. So he's a character, man. No, there are no off days to him. There's no easy way out. And he has the full backing of De Laurentiis.
Because he's crazy, too.
Because De Laurentiis is absolutely insane as well. So, I mean, you're talking about a guy who felt slighted by the city of Naples when it came to refurbishing the stadium. So he said, cool, I'll just go buy Bari. And he just bought Bari. Like, just bought him. Like, I'll just take my money there if you guys aren't going to help me out. YOLO. Like, I mean, the entire organization is nuts.
Man. Okay, stat of the weekend. 9.
Stat of the weekend?
No, you got to work on that. You're ripping off Dan Patrick's show, too. We can't do that. We got respect for them.
Well, no, because then that would be stat of the day, stat of the day.
Yes, because stat of the weekend and stat of the day with a jingle is so different.
Come on
Two
down
syllables.
to Lowndes County High School
to be fair, he was
frog and a skillet. That's going to be a 1606 Norman Drive in Valdosta, Georgia. You just come on down there.
All right.
And stop by Valdosta Ford and
Monday night special.
Adding to the craziness in the Defensa Central Cordoba match, we now have Frias, who's been playing really well for Defensa as one of their center backs, who is being mummified after a head-to-head collision. He has the bandage going vertically around the head and down over the chin, and then he's got another bandage around the top of the head. It's impressive.
So you're saying the only thing he's missing are the fife and the drum?
Yes, and I do not put it past Hernan Crespo to hand that to him at all.
So are they using the white tape or the black tape to hide
brown, which is probably not a good idea. It's too light. We'll have to see how much tape they're going to have to use.
You got to make sure if he's bleeding out that no one can see it.
Yeah, and he's been pretty close. There's a lot of blood. Central Cordoba is trying to get a penalty. They're not going to get it. Okay, I said the stat of the weekend. It's 9. Marcelo has got some problems at Real Madrid since Zinedine Zidane came back. Zinedine Zidane's lost 9 games since he came back. Marcelo has started in every one of them, or played in every one of them. He might not get back into the team too much because they lost to Valencia. Valencia is kind of a joke of a team at this point. They are trying to get rid of anybody who is worth any amount of money. They negotiated a deal down after the window because Spain has weird internal domestic transfer rules where if they had made Atleti pay the release clause, they could have then went out and spent that money and replaced the player in 30 days. Inside the league. They can only do domestic transfers. You can't do international transfers right now. But instead, they negotiated it down so they couldn't replace the player that they sold outside of the window because, they don't want to do that. But they won 4-1 over Real Madrid, so maybe they don't need to. I don't know. Weird, crazy, strange results all over the place in Spain. Barcelona has a good weekend, right? They win 5-2. Then Ansu Fati ruptures his meniscus, and he's out for like 4 months.
4 months.
Yeah.
Sell everyone.
Siri, show me Pyrrhic victories.
Yeah. It's very, very bad. It is very, very bad. I did not get to see the Real Madrid game, but it has been described as ugly in capital letters by Winter Wind. Ugly.
This is the year where if you have questions about a manager, it's probably best to just try to let the manager work it out.
Yeah, I agree. Just let it ride right now. Let it ride. Griezmann whiffed on a PK in that Barcelona match. They still won, but now they don't have Ansu Fati. It is not good.
Who broke
Griezmann?
that,
can we just say the
what?
Griezmann experiment has failed?
Yes,
in totality?
absolutely.
Yeah.
Like what? Who or what exactly broke that man? Like
Which man?
Griezmann. Like
Fortnite.
Lionel Messi?
Yeah. The gravity of Lionel Messi. Not man. Just
yeah. See, sometimes you can feed off the gravity, and sometimes the gravity feeds off you.
right. In the world of astrophysics, we call that a gravity assist. When the gravity propels you, like when we launch satellites that go out to the great beyond, they fire it toward Jupiter, and Jupiter's immense gravity, like Voyager 1 and Voyager 2, they slingshot, and it accelerates you. The gravity accelerates you on out into the cosmos. Now, you mess around with gravity in the wrong way, and it sends you crashing into a fiery heap into the upper atmosphere of said particular celestial body, and that appears to have happened to Mr. Griezmann, because that man has fallen apart.
But do they have to keep him for when they do move on from Messi?
No. Because
Who's going to take him?
Yeah, because the man's
Inter
doing
Miami is my answer, but I'm tickled by the idea.
Do you think he's going to do any better with the ghost of Messi running around on the field?
Maybe.
Not even the real Messi, the ghost of Messi, because then everyone's going to be like, yeah, but you're still not him. Dude's playing in sky blue right now for Manchester.
See, here's the thing about black holes and the way they work when they destroy light and they destroy a sun. To Nick's point, it doesn't just get sucked in like a Hoover vacuum cleaner or a Dirt Devil or an Oryx. it just kind of strings it apart. If you've ever seen like an animation of how a black hole works, it doesn't just take it all at once. It just kind of siphons it off like a drink, or like it's circling a drain almost, which is basically what's happening to Griezmann. He's just kind of circling the drain bit by bit, and it's just this slow de-evolution.
It's called spaghettification. And
there you go.
That's what's happening to that man's ego right now, is being spaghettified all over the Camp Nou.
That sounds gross.
Hey, it is what it is.
It's gross to watch too, to be fair.
That's fair.
He made the choice. He said, I want to wear that club's colors. I want to leave a very good situation where I'm the man, and I want to go to Barcelona. And all of these dudes keep thinking that they are going to be able to step up and be a part of this fantastic team and be in concert with the soccer equivalent of Prince. It's not going to happen. At any moment, that dude will just go, oh, and just show you the door. Yeah, Chief, I'm doing my solo now. This is your cue to exit the stage. And some people can handle it and some people can't. And Griezmann's not a dude who can handle that.
No.
It's Messi's team. And the problem is when Messi leaves, which is going to happen, he's not retiring. He's going to be wearing sky blue in Manchester. So people will still be able to turn on the TV and watch their man play and then look at Griezmann and be like, why can't you be him? You're not him. Get out of here. Go back to Madrid.
Man, harsh.
Hey, he needs to get out of that league because you've proven you're not up to snuff with playing with that man. So go to Paris.
Would Diego welcome him back, or would he just sit on the front lawn with a crowbar and just looking at him as he walks up?
Option 2. There's no welcoming back. Diego's not going to welcome that dude back.
No, not after the way he left.
No.
Kefsey says he's got a World Cup, so he'll survive.
Well, what does Kefsey say?
I want to see Simeone take a life.
Oh, that'll happen on any day that ends in Y. Kefsey says he's got a World Cup, he'll survive.
Yeah, he's got a World Cup, and without question, that is the cap on the career. But it doesn't change. Like, you can have. I look at it like boxing. You can be the world champion, right? Like Joe Frazier's my favorite boxer, the Black Rocky. Like, no matter how many times, how many different ways you hit that man, he kept coming after you. But at any point you start talking about how great Joe Frazier was, somebody's going to put on that Foreman fight where Foreman beat that man senseless. And it does something to you. It changes you because that ego bruise is there. And as much as we talk about the World Cup win, are we going to talk about Griezmann being the guy in that World Cup? Or are we going to talk about the videos that surfaced of Pogba rallying that locker room and getting them hyped up, ready to go? I think more people are going to view France's World Cup as Pogba's World Cup more so than Griezmann's World Cup.
Speaking of guys who I'd love to see go somewhere else.
Yes. I'm willing to have that conversation with whoever says that they want it, the World Cup was Griezmann's World Cup. I'm by all means, but I'm just saying that I think more people are going to see the videos of Pogba hyping that locker room up and view him as the leader of that squad over Griezmann. Where the stories that were circulating was that man did nothing except play Fortnite and show up on game day. Like,
I would have said Mbappe's World Cup, maybe.
No,
it felt like Mbappe's coming out party. I can get behind that because that kind of was Mbappe's, like, I'm here.
It was his coming out party.
In a way that, like, I thought, I swear, in 2016, I thought the Euro was going to be Kingsley Coman's coming out party, like, legitimately. And it wasn't. Mm-hmm. And I can absolutely buy the idea that is Mbappe's. I also think it was kind of the closing of the storybook on Hugo Lloris, who went from, basically standing in a shooting gallery in the mid-2000s at times when France is a hot mess, kind of has his up and down times, and is in net for a World Cup. I think it's not his World Cup, but I think he is a side story there. That's an interesting one when you look at his career with France.
Mm-hmm. this is a move that's going to haunt him. That's going to haunt Griezmann.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, it's a move that's going to haunt him. As much as he sits back and thinks of the positives, his light wasn't remotely equivalent to the greatest player to lace him up at Barcelona. There's no way that doesn't haunt that man.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. I'll be curious to see the whole Gustavo says, and I agree. I just want Messi to leave Barcelona. That's the next domino to fall. I do think that they are, in their back of their minds, I think they're ready for that to happen. And I think they're going to then put everything on Antoine Griezmann to be the guy when Messi leaves. I don't know if he's going to live up to it. Probably won't. But that's got to be the plan because they're not going to have the money to go get anybody else.
No, I agree with you.
Dembele, who was supposed to be contributing to that, but God knows. I don't even know if is he alive? Is he an actual person still?
Yeah, no, he's been playing well. He's been playing down there. He's been playing well. So, I mean, he's fine. Pedri is another one to keep an eye on. He's been doing well. Like they've got some things. The hard thing about right now, and this is something that Bernd and Gustavo both brought up in the Twitch pitch tonight, you got so many injuries at the moment. Mm-hmm. You got so many players that are breaking down physically, whether it's Ansu Fati, Kimmich, as we talked about, Alexander-Arnold now for Liverpool, what Pep said about you can't manage anything right now. It's just who can play, who can stand up. Jurgen Klopp said, if we continue like this and hopefully we can play the Euros next summer, let's see which players can take part because it's going to be walking wounded. Mm-hmm. So you're doing that, and as Bernd points out, which I think is a really good point here, you're also then, Ansu Fati, just turned 18. He has to go into the lineup, play a lot of minutes. Is he physically ready to play that much? Probably not. But he's playing well, and you got to keep turning him out because who else you got? Right. Pedri's going to be that next one now, too. That's what's going to happen. You got these young guys playing a lot of minutes because they have to, and this is where you're at. Because of the schedules, because of everything in this year of coronavirus. That's why I think it is so stupid. And it sounds like the Premier League might actually change their minds here about the 5 substitutions. That doesn't fix it because we're seeing it in other leagues where people are getting hurt. But it definitely helps a little bit. And it's from the Telegraph, they're saying that they're not going to change the scheduling because they say they don't have any way to do that. But they are going to invite clubs for a third time later this month to vote about the 5 substitutions. They got to change that, right?
They have to. This is one of those things that it's like a bad financial decision that you think you can stomach at the time that you make it, but then 6 months later it catches up to you. That's what we're seeing right now. We're seeing, of all teams that theoretically, based on spending, should have been able to survive this pandemic from an injury standpoint, from a player standpoint. It should have been Barcelona. You guys have 80 million dudes sitting on the bench doing nothing. 60 million guys sitting on the bench doing nothing. And because you have squandered the money and the scouting on these guys so much, you've just wrecked yourselves. So when hard times hit, you're screwed.
Sorry. Things are happening. Napoli is trying to get excited. It's a throwback video that popped up on Reddit. So why not? We'll play it because this is what we do. Decibel Bellini. He's about to announce a goal scorer that we all know very well. Man, how many times did they do it? He fist bumped the camera, too, at the end. That's impressive.
I mean, that's gorgeous.
That man left that to go play at Juventus. That man left that to go play at Juventus. The worst drugs on earth. If you think you're going to leave that and go play at Juve, where it's like, Gonzalo Higuain just scored. You're leaving that for.
Are you telling me that Jim Nantz should be calling Juve games?
Which is why, if you go to Naples even today and you go walking through the market, you will see toilet paper with the Hamburglar's face on it. You'll see statuettes of the devil pooping on Gonzalo Higuain. Yeah.
I need one of those.
Yeah, we need one of those, man. That's awesome.
You left that. Oh. You left that to go play for Juve. There's so many F words that pop into my head right now. What a
fraudulent
moron.
It is fraudulent. Yes.
What a moron.
That's pretty bad.
That's why he's forever the Hamburglar.
I don't think you should ever leave that if a stadium is making that much noise for a goal. And the dude is like, he's like the DJ at, the coolest nightclub in Naples on the mic, running around on the track at the San Paulo, yelling, and the crowd's going nuts, eating it all up.
Crowd in the palm of your hand at your speed.
Can we talk to Steve Craig about doing something like that for Joseph?
First match back.
Martinez. I'm just saying.
I don't hate it.
The first match back for Joseph is going to break a window. You're going to be able to hear it, blocks away the first time he gets even announced or takes the field.
You'll have people ready to risk it all in COVID land to watch that man come back and play. I'm just saying.
And the first time he scores, my
God.
We need that. I'm willing. I'm putting my name in the hat right now to be the Italian DJ hype man for the goal scoring. That's all I'm saying.
Love it.
Oh, speaking, you know what? We have odds for MLS Cup. They're out.
Hold that. We'll come back to that before we finish. We'll run through the bracket, and we'll do a very preliminary prediction. It could really change because we don't even know what the quarantine rules are going to be yet.
We don't know who's going to be allowed to play.
Yeah, there's that. So it's kind of a big thing when you're making picks. He'll be able to play because he's not going to play for Argentina. So he'll be able to play when Miami goes to Nashville. We know that much. Let's go to England real quick here.
England.
Yes. Yes. Let's go to.
Is it coming home?
Is it?
It's never.
No, it's actually not coming home. It's not coming home.
It's never going to go home.
It might be going to Albania, Jarrett. You want to know how? Because for the England Nations League game against Iceland, they can't play it at Wembley, it looks like, because the government has banned people coming in from Denmark.
Which, they're going to Tirana?
I didn't know Denmark was a massive issue.
Damn Danes.
It includes all elite sports people who had previously been exempt from these restrictions. Iceland are playing Denmark in Copenhagen on Sunday, ahead of coming to England to meet England. The FA is trying to be able to play this game at Wembley. They might not be able to play it, so it might not be coming home. They might have to play it in Albania instead.
Whew. Oh, but for what it's worth, by the way, and I will die on this hill, if it was really coming home, it'd be going back to Uruguay, who won the first World Cup. So y'all can have me. I don't care.
Man.
Keep it 100.
Man. That's kind of harsh, Jerry.
Keep 100. Hey.
You won one World Cup in 1966.
That's
awesome. That's more than America's ever won. That's more than America's ever sniffed.
Because Jimmy Hogan
the first
revitalized
one,
the game. You want to say like you own it? No.
The first one was in Uruguay. That's won by Uruguay.
And they won it.
Man, Jarrett.
Give that trophy. Let if it's coming home, hand the trophy to
Give
Sparks.
it to Diego Forlan.
Which door is England?
Yep.
All right.
For the what did we decide? Like the second or third greatest individual World Cup performance of all time?
Which one?
Diego Forlan.
Forlan. He's in the top 5 for sure.
Yeah.
He owned
that World Cup.
Yeah, he was absurd.
Anyway, Albania would be amazing. Like, my God.
DEFCON 1
England,
right
Iceland, the rematch in Albania.
In Tirana, Albania.
In Albania. All right, so
just the most unwatchable game too. My God,
no, England's actually playing now. That's not fair. I like what Gareth Southgate's doing.
I'm just running into an Icelandic wall over and over again, and Iceland tries to win this game 1-0 on the.
I just want to see this in Albania.
Look, here's the thing. Like, everybody was all like, "Oh, Iceland! Oh, this is such a great story! Oh, this is a great story." None of y'all watched those matches because they were horrendous. Iceland's the most boring sack of garbage soccer team I've ever seen in my life because they just pack everybody behind the ball.
Scoreboard.
Okay, so
Scoreboard? What scoreboard? What did they win, John? What did Iceland actually win?
They won the respect and
admiration. Nation.
Because you didn't watch the match. Because if you watched the match, you'd be puking up your heart in the trash can because you wasted your time. It was horrible.
Were they competitive, Jason?
Kind of, if they played
Pablo
10 people
Mastroeni
behind the ball.
Pablo Mastroeni was happy about Iceland.
Pablo Mastroeni loved it.
How big is Iceland?
I don't care. It was horrible soccer.
It's like the
horrible.
size of Slidell, Louisiana.
Right.
Garbage.
You're talking about a country that's like the size of the southern part of Louisiana, and you're telling me that they what do you want them to play, Jason? You want them to play tiki taka?
That'd be amazing.
Why can't they?
Play tiki taka?
Why can't they?
Because they're not developing the players to do it.
Well, I thought they were, but no, that's not what everybody said. Everybody was talking about how they're developing all this stuff, and it's so great, all the coaching. The United States needs to go follow what Iceland is doing from a coaching perspective. Did you watch them play?
No, you're conflating two different things.
No, people said that.
Fans who want that to happen versus the players who were actually executing.
It was awful soccer, Nick.
It's not awful soccer.
You're an Italian. You like defensive soccer. So there we go.
Anything that wrecks someone else's
set up everything so you could get a set piece from Gylfi Sigurdsson every single time.
That's all you had.
If it gets you on the board,
and it kept working.
Win and you're competitive, it works.
How competitive were you?
That's why I love gegenpressing, because it wrecks someone's day. It is a mindset. And if you have to do that to win or to be competitive, then God be with you.
It's a mindset.
I think you can also be as upset with the other teams for knowing what Iceland was going to do.
Oh, absolutely.
And walking right into the damn bear trap that was laying there with neon lights around it and a sign that said, "Beware the bear trap," and stepping in for 9
I didn't
minutes.
even get to that part yet, Jarrett. What Iceland did and became everybody's darling annoyed the ever-loving crap out of me. The teams that allowed it to happen were even worse. England getting embarrassed by Iceland was horrendous.
I think that was like 4th of July weekend, too. It was amazing.
I mean,
I'm pretty sure that was 4th of July weekend.
It works.
Iceland.
Everyone hated Catenaccio, but you know what? For a while, it worked.
People
don't like gegenpressing because it's not pretty. It doesn't rely. You're not reliant upon skill. You're just reliant upon athleticism. It got Mainz all the way up to the Bundesliga. It got RB Leipzig up. It works.
Gegenpressing is Brazil 1970 compared to Iceland.
It doesn't matter. It works.
So Nick would enjoy Iceland 2016 and Greece from 2004, where they just stare at one another for 90 minutes.
When the pirate ship parked every Greek body, including the ghost of Alexander of Alexander the Great, and he was from Macedonia, and it brought in I don't know, Plato and the ghost of all these other ancient Athenians, and parked them on the field. It brought in the water boy from PAOK, where I don't care. They won the Euros with it. They won the Euros. Not everyone can play sweet, beautiful possession baseball. Not everyone can do that. So if you can't and you don't have the time,
if you can't, you make all of us suffer watching your crap.
Didn't beat it.
Hey, even Leonidas was playing a low block against Xerxes and the Persians, man.
You know.
Those
hey,
two teams
we got these two big
were
walls.
the two teams that drove me more insane than anything. Yes, it's nice that Iceland made a run, but did the people who enjoyed it didn't actually watch the games? Because if you did, you fell asleep.
No, hold up. When Georgia Southern ran the triple option against Alabama, what did Nick Saban say? They ran through us like...
Yeah, but that's not boring. No, that doesn't work. You can be gimmicky. No. That's not boring.
Triple option... No, we don't like the triple option. It's slow and boring. It's 3 yards in the cloud of dust.
That's not boring.
It works.
Nah, that's different.
It works.
That's different.
You don't like it? It works.
When Georgia Southern beat Florida,
it works.
Look, I didn't say it didn't work. Don't hold up. Don't twist something out of line here. I said it worked because the other teams were dumber than Iceland was because they couldn't beat it because you knew it was coming. I said it was boring. I said it was awful to watch. I'm mad at them too. But the whole Iceland revolution, that's great. You watch them more than one game, you hate life.
Jason,
you hate the game.
Smaller than Rhode Island. What do you want?
To not bore me to tears. That's all. That's all I ask.
Sorry, that's just not on the menu, sir.
That's not on the menu, sir. Menu. Winning is on the menu. Winning is on.
They didn't win that much.
Please come back during the lunch brush, sir.
They didn't win that much.
2004 Greece might have been the closest thing that we've ever seen, by the way, to the Monty Python Philosopher Soccer Game skit.
It really was. That's worse than Catenaccio. That wasn't even Catenaccio.
No.
Catenaccio at least was like, keep in mind, the Grande Intersides that pioneered Catenaccio, those, like, not the Veru, but like true Catenaccio in its purest form. That was the highest scoring team in the league that year. Like, they, 3 pass counters. Like, that was the standard. You could score with Catenaccio. It was the rest of the buffoons that tried to replicate it that made it the monolithic pile of poop that it was.
Yeah.
In its purest form, it can work. Just like I'm sure there are people who say the same thing about communism and everything else. In its purest form, it can work. Yeah, but the problem is all the other knuckleheads who try to implement it. So,
okay, a couple things to clean up here from the Twitch pitch. So, I agree with everybody who has said, and I think you guys were saying it too. Iceland fans loved it. Greek fans loved winning the Euros in 2004. Absolutely true. Absolutely true. The rest of the world hated it, or was asleep, or had turned it off. Okay.
And woke up during the Viking clap.
Yes, they liked the Viking clap. That was it. Or they liked the Icelandic announcers.
Al Davis, just win, baby. And you could get the Iceland clap if you went to Motherwell in Scotland, you bastards.
Yeah, look at me right here. I am supporting my Mediterranean brothers in Greece. I support the Nordic brothers up in Iceland.
You have no brothers in Iceland.
Opportunity to apologize to no one.
You sound like Hans Gruber talking to the FBI.
Hey.
What is that reference?
Like to release Asian Dawn. Look. No apologies. If it wins, baby, just win. Just win, baby. Get in. That's how it's done. If you want to play pretty soccer, you want pretty soccer, then you can invest and you can spend all the time in the world trying to build your program up, steal the best coaches from wherever. Oh, wait, China already does that. They don't win anything.
So China needs to be uber defensive.
So if it's what gets you the win, great.
Can we actually talk about Iceland's record? The whole thing about winning.
They play the prettiest ball ever. Oh my God. Oh, the Netherlands, the Orange Crush.
No, they started kicking everybody.
Total football. And you know what they do? They poop the bed every time because they can't get it together when they need to. You grind out the wins when you have to, if that's what you have to do to win. If you can play pretty ball like Spain did in Pasanaccio, where people fall asleep in the 15th minute because you retained the ball for all 15 damn minutes, then by all means, great. But
you want to talk about 2012, Nick?
I can't complain about it. No, they won. I can't complain about it. But at the end of the day, not everyone can play like Spain. Not everyone can play like the Netherlands, who'd never win World Cups. By all means. But if you have to bunker and grind out a win, hey, go for it. Just win. That's the point of the game, is to win.
So you're saying it's a you problem.
It's a you problem.
It's an everybody problem, except if you're Icelandic or Greek in these situations. That's it.
If Lionel Messi, if Lionel Messi won a World Cup and they won it by playing Greek tactics, do you think anyone would remember the fact that they ran Greek tactics or the fact that Lionel Messi finally got up?
You're not playing anything resembling Greek tactics if you have Lionel Messi in your team.
Saying it doesn't matter if Lionel Messi, if it gets Lionel Messi,
Argentina might care though. Argentina might care.
Argentina would be like, get in.
But you wouldn't do it because you have somebody who can actually play. That's the difference.
Sure, on the counter, yeah.
That countering, Iceland didn't counter.
No, they just ran a low block.
They sat back, and then when they got a chance to go, they got a chance to go. They did a couple times.
They played like Ryan Smetzer in Seattle in the first half of 2018.
No,
like
don't
Colorado
even.
Played in 2017.
No, Iceland played like a limited, half-talented version of the Colorado Rapids in 2016. It was awful. It was no fun. Yeah, they beat England. They won one knockout game. Then they got beat by France 5-2. Yippee skippy, you get something for winning the round of 16 game. Ooh, what does that look like? It's a pennant on the wall. Yeah, exciting.
Colorado in 2016.
Hey, question. How many? What's Iceland's record here lately? Do you guys have any clue?
Give me the record.
I think suck might be the winning percentage.
4 losses and 1 win. They beat Romania.
It's better than Scotland could do.
Hey, look, here's the fun part: is as much grief because Jason, you're always called the bully, right? You're always called the bully, right?
I guess
to be able to flip it and be able to bully you for a little bit on bunker and counter.
It's garbage. It's crap. It's awful. Never watching it. Root for these teams against these crappy, garbage, bunkering, nothing teams. Root for the opponent.
Garbage, bunkering, nothing teams.
Yes.
Give me the bunker, baby. Give me the bunker.
Now,
give me the bunker.
Would.
And when I am. But here's the thing, Jason. I embrace the bunker. I embrace grinding out wins. 1-0, baby. All these people, it's so boring. And they absolutely go like nutty over a 1-0 pitcher's duel at Wrigley Park in July. Like, I mean, come on, man. Like, sometimes people
those are
see
two different things,
though.
1-0
pitcher's duel.
No, we're not talking about it being a low-scoring game and talking about the game. We're talking about the team's approach. Their approach is to bore everyone to tears and make them stab their eyes out.
Again, okay, so what if Iceland ran gegenpressing?
I would have rather seen that.
Okay.
Gegenpressing's not boring. Don't get me. You can be defensive and not be boring.
You're just choosing where you're going to do your battling at, though. They're choosing to do their battling in their own 18 over on the front.
Which that bores me to tears. That's what I'm saying.
Okay.
Gegenpressing is not boring.
The best 1-0 game I still have ever watched in person was the most unlikeliest 1-0 game ever, Nick. And that was Kenshin Kawakami somehow beating Roy Halladay when he was with the Phillies. It was like a 1-0 game where like Matt Diaz knocks in the winning run in like the 8th inning. It's the most dumbest, weirdest game I've ever seen in my life.
Burn has a good point, and this is even more upsetting. So the sad part about 2016 Euros, Burn hated it too. Thank you, Burn. I appreciate the support. The sad part was Portugal and France played almost as defensive with talent.
Yes.
Yeah, that's what is even more upsetting. You at least understand it, even if you do want to stab your eyes out with Iceland. With Portugal and France, no, it's completely and utterly unacceptable.
Well, here's the thing: the way Big 12 coaches come up coaches in Big 12 country come up with Star Wars like 5-wide wacky systems. Italians grow up that way with defense. They learn about defensive fluidity. What total football was for ball possession for the Dutch, defensive fluidity was for the Italians. Like the ability to, like, how many people are going to take Claudio Gentile and say, "Hey, we need you to go run the 6 today." Wait, what?
Yeah.
Like, you know.
One thing though, Iceland has nothing on fluidity. I mean, the country's called Iceland to begin with. They played like that. There was no fluidity.
That's a slight, sir.
There was no fluidity to Iceland.
Fluidity, sir.
It was frozen. It was crap. It was garbage. It was frozen garbage. There was no fluidity. Crap.
Iceland is actually green, and Greenland is covered with ice as long as global warming permits it.
Defensively, there was nothing green about Iceland either. It was crap. It was garbage.
It made them relevant.
No, the thunderclap made them relevant, and their crazy announcer made them relevant.
Their
announcer was awesome.
Ate it up.
Did they rip the clap off from the Scots, Jared? Did they rip it off, or did Iceland have it first? Did we ever get a clarification on this?
Motherwell was doing it before them, I believe. There's no clarification that I've ever found that Motherwell invented it. I'm sure, Stjarnan somewhere in Iceland, the club that, 5-6 years ago, you probably saw on social media because they did all the crazy fun post-goal celebrations.
Yes.
I think they did it. I know Motherwell did it. There are probably small and big clubs all over who have done it. It probably started organically in different places at the same time as things like that are wont to do. So
we have differing legends on this. Some say it started at Motherwell. Others suggest it started at the French club Lens more than 2 decades prior. Fans of the Greek side PAOK Salonika have also chanted PAOK on the clap of hands since the 90s.
I think it's PAOK as like the other one.
Is it facial tissue or Kleenex? Is it facial tissue or Kleenex?
Kleenex.
Okay.
Kleenex.
Is it soda or Coke?
Depends on where you are.
If you're in the city, if you are in God's country of Atlanta, Georgia, is it soda or Coke?
Oh, it's Coke.
It's Coke and you get stabbed.
All right. So it's the Viking clap. And Iceland's. It doesn't matter who invented it, they own it. They own it now.
There's a few teams that will argue with that. But anyway,
this was also argue that with you is actually the Minnesota Vikings.
I was about to say. Yes.
Great, but hey, look.
And they lean hard into the Viking thing, too.
I believe that we will win. I believe that we will win. The Naval Academy claims they owned it, but now it belongs to the U.S. men's national team. So
the Navy can have it back. Please take it.
No,
take it
we
back.
Don't want it. Thanks.
Send it somewhere.
No,
are we going to get some armed forces slander from Nick? Because I'm going to pull up a chair.
Send it somewhere away from everything that I ever would hear again.
Just bring up the Air Force Academy and just pull up a chair and hand Nick a microphone.
Oh, God.
Nick?
Do you want the only good thing about Iceland from 2016?
It's a beautiful country that's full of beautiful people.
In the European Championships, do you want the only good thing that they did in the European Championships?
Hit me.
Så Jói sem setur hún á Gylfa í fyrsta Jónta og Kolbeinn með skot við erum komnir yfir hér í Nýs Kolbeinn Sigþórsson með fyrsta markið sitt á EM en ekki það síðasta Ísland 2 England 1.
I don't know how he did the whole tournament like
Absolute chills.
English announcers would never.
It's
English
not.
Announcers could.
No, they couldn't. They definitely could. It's not chills. I'm a little worried.
Yes, wonderful crumpets.
I'm a little scared at points in that for him.
I know dude hits octaves that are rare.
It's amazing.
I mean,
those were the goals against England, by the way.
Jonsi from Siros kind of feel to it in terms of like he's hitting falsetto octaves that like Jonsi.
It's Mariah Carey range. He's hitting like all 4 octaves on the way through the call.
Yeah, it's impressive. Okay, Twitch pitch has been going nuts, yelling at me, yelling at everybody. So we got lots of stuff.
Still tied at 2.
Yes, it is 2-2. We've got about 30 minutes left in Cordoba as Defensa is throwing everybody forward because they don't play like Iceland. I'll tell you that much. Hernan Crespo hates Iceland too. He talked about it. He hates them. He hates it. Hates
when
Greek
Hernan
food too.
Crespo comes to Atlanta, we will set up the interview for you.
The way he's playing, the way he's got this team playing right now, it's really, really impressive. It's a little scary how open they are, and it kind of hurt them against Santos. You might need to dial that back just a little bit sometimes, but they're a really fun team to watch. So defenses, they almost scored off a crazy sequence. Anyway, okay, 2-2 with about 30 minutes left. All right, Twitch pitch. Bernd declares that the MLS Icelandic representative that plays like Iceland is Nashville. That's a little harsh. I think Nashville's added more to their game now.
Nashville actually tries to counter.
Offense, yeah.
Nashville's got a plan.
Early in the year, absolutely. I think they've evolved past Iceland to, like, Norway or
2015
Sweden.
Colorado was the shout. 2015 Colorado was the shout.
No, 2016. That was the one where they got to the Western Conference Final.
I'm sorry. Thank you. Yeah, 2016 was like, what did they score? Like 20 goals all year. They were winning games like 1-0.
Yeah. They won 12 games and they scored in each of them, and that's it. They stunk every other game.
But Nashville could win it all. If Nashville wins it all.
But they're not as defensive. They're not the same.
Greek level.
No, I don't even think they're that defensive. I think they've evolved past it. They've got more in their bag now than they did. But they are super dangerous on set pieces. That part's accurate.
How about this? If Nashville gets a title, how many people passed over their manager?
Everybody did.
Everyone.
For years, everybody did.
For years. That man sat back and marinated.
Because everybody said he was boring.
Right.
Because 2010 Colorado, when he won, was boring.
Do you think Nashville's going to care?
But they're not boring like that anymore, because that was the thing. And we had the chance to watch him up close here in Atlanta with the Silverbacks. They weren't boring. He's not a boring manager. If he doesn't have the pieces to compete, he will get defensive. Yes, he did in 2010. He found a way to a title that way. That's being practical in that situation. He doesn't set out to be boring. No, Iceland and Greece set out to be boring and drive us all crazy. Gary Smith adjusted to be more defensive. He doesn't want to be that way. You can keep shaking your hands all you want. That's fine. You're wrong, and that's fine. Man.
If you think the trophy, who cares?
The people who have to watch it who don't have a rooting interest.
The Tampa Bay Buccaneers won a Super Bowl with Brad Flippin Johnson at quarterback, who's a very nice guy, by the way, and an insane defense. And they just Mike Allstott left, Mike Allstott right. Worked on sweep.
So
the worst player on that defense might have been Sheldon Quarles, and that's
saying something.
That's not an insult to Sheldon Quarles.
Right.
Colonel has a good point. Says Iceland was exciting compared to Seattle at Mercedes-Benz Stadium in 2018. Boop. When the manager apologizes to the opponent's manager the week before, and the opponent's manager wasn't exactly lighting anything up at that point either. Brad Friedel was not exactly a thrilling manager. He hated his players. When he apologized to him for playing so defensively the week before, and then tried to lie about it, say he didn't say it, and he was calling Brad Friedel a liar, and I don't know. He came into Atlanta and said, "Oh, you think I was boring last week? Here we go. National TV audience, I don't care. This is going to be fun for you guys."
National TV audience.
Time.
Post-World Cup final national TV audience.
Yeah, you could have walked in.
I think the only time that everyone at that station was genuinely nervous about me being in the production suite at the time in the bullpen, because I was so pissed off that I had to sit there and watch 90 minutes of that.
Yeah, I had to call it. I wasn't happy. I need to go back and listen to some of that.
Rob Tribble's looking at me like, what the hell happened to you? I had to watch that.
I need to go back and listen to that game.
What was the result on that game?
Was it 1-1?
1-1. They got a penalty off of lofting a ball into the box that they put away. I think Ladero put it away.
I can't remember how they got the penalty.
Because Joseph goes up and gets enough of a header to bounce it past the keeper right after halftime. Atlanta had a couple chances late and couldn't put it away.
Seattle
had zero interest in playing that game.
Awful. That game was insane. 10 buses with the tires slashed, according to Winter Wind.
The entire Laredo garage.
Yeah. Bernd did not watch the Euros in 2016. He watched the Copa America that summer instead. It was great. Hated the Euros. I was right there with you. Hated it. And it was PAOK.
Salonika.
Yes. Gustavo, in Italy.
Say it like you're stubbing your toe in the middle of it. PAOK. You got it right.
Gustavo says, in Italy, they invented Catenaccio because they have technically the best defenders in the world. If you don't have the talent to dominate possession from the back line, you can't do it well. Because then you're not doing anything about possession. You are afraid of having the ball anywhere near you. And that's no fun. I added that last part.
Well, okay. Look. Let's start with let's start with a couple of things here.
Oh, a couple of okay.
I would like to say that how do I start this right here?
Just go ahead and start.
You're keeping Nick from writing his manifesto. Instead, he's just saying it now.
Right. So, look, the key thing here is that Helenio Herrera, who was an Argentine, got to throw that out there, Gustavo. So you guys.
Yeah, I think they kicked him out, actually.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, I think he ended up getting French citizenship and then Italian citizenship at one point.
They watched this team's play and they said, "We don't want you back."
No, that's not true at all.
That's what I read. I heard that. I heard that somewhere.
No, that's okay. Look, you can be very angry at this, and you can be mad, but. Luigi.
That's the part where they're saying, Herrera, get out of here.
Pierluigi, I'm going to see you in the streets. That's all I'm saying, Pierluigi. Look, the difference is I would say the sweeper position triggers everything in Catenaccio because the sweeper is a ball handler, not just someone who occupies the space right in front of the keeper and then does nothing else. True Catenaccio, the sweeper gets the ball, and I'm looking down because my brain has to start like going through like the mathematical equations like on The Hangover, and triggers the counterattack. The trigger goes, it's 3 passes is the perfect Catenaccio counter. And at that point, you have absorbed so much pressure that the other team has nowhere to go with the ball. Everywhere they turn, they're surrounded by your team, thus triggering the attack. The minute that it gets to the midfield, it is one long diagonal pass into the playmaker or the forward. Simple goal. It works. It's beautiful in purest form.
Yeah, the Italians can do it properly.
But there were a lot of Italians who screwed it up.
Oh, for sure.
I mean, Rocco Nerio, he turned it into like a war crime. And the Veru, which started in Switzerland, you had a manager there who said, I can't compete with the players I have. I have to solve this systemically. So how am I going to do that? He created the Veru, which is French for like the door bolt. Catenaccio, which is essentially the same in Italian. And the Catenaccio has several fathers. The idea was that you had Helenio Herrera, who essentially said, okay, I'm going to do this and this and this, and I'm going to create the offset 3-5-2, which if you're an Atlanta United fan in 2018, you're welcome. And you had a couple of managers, one manager in particular who had this legend that he was watching a fishing trawler, and you have the main fishing net and then a secondary fishing net behind it that caught the ones that got away. And he said, a sweeper. And like the light bulb went off.
I like that.
So
that's a good story. I like that.
So that was allegedly how the sweeper position was introduced within Catenaccio. Now, the difference is the utilization of the sweeper within the system. So you had the stopper, the sweeper, the two center backs. You had an offset 3-5-2.
Yeah, that was fun playing that way in like 1995.
What was that? I couldn't hear you over your beer drinking there, your mutterings.
It was fun playing that way in 1995.
Hey.
In high school. It's not beer. It's Fernetti Coke.
Okay. Sure thing. All I'm saying is you had a system that could dominate until every other team started running it. And then once every other team started running it, it became diluted and washed up, and it was. But it
dominated domestically, at least.
It dominated domestically for sure. Italy was able to trot out a few World Cups where they were very problematic. But the greatest issue was always finding offensive players who knew when to execute the counter. That's the big challenge. Guys who can go from hot to cold. It's almost like a quarterback in an option system. Guys who can throw and put it on point ice cold because they're used to running the ball. It's the same thing with Catenaccio. You have to have attackers who can go from ice cold to on fire very, very quickly, and that's very difficult to do. But it worked. So, actually, Ireland, if you're an Ireland fan, when Trapattoni took over and instituted his version of Catenaccio, which had a flat back four, that's probably the most competitive that Ireland has been just about ever. Just about?
The Jack Charlton Ireland would like to argue with you a little bit.
Okay. I'm willing to have that conversation, but I'm saying that the Giovanni Trapattoni was, I believe, the most competitive within Europe at that time frame.
See, but here's my thing. So you said earlier, if you get Messi a World Cup with it, it would be fine. Argentina would embrace it. Are you going to tell somebody who says this that you're going to play defensively? You can't tell that guy to be defensive. I mean, they'll do whatever it takes to win.
He wouldn't be. In the Catenaccio, he'd be the playmaker up at the top. You'd have two strikers and then the playmaker underneath.
You can't
tell. That's sort of on
Argentina could never play that way. Gustavo says that they can't do the Catenaccio. They had Maradona. They had Di Stefano. They got Messi. They have to attack. They have to attack most of the time. It's the mentality. And that's the different countries that have personalities in the way that they play. That's something the U.S. hasn't ever truly created. You don't. What Correct. Is the American way to play? I don't know the answer. There isn't one.
Counter-pressing.
Really. No,
everything
but it's not
hard and fast.
No, I'm not.
I'm
talking about what is it now? Like there isn't one. There is not an American style of play.
Hard and fast. The on ramp to hard and fast.
You will lose all of the Latin talent in this country.
How?
Because they're not going to play that way.
They're not going to play warp drive soccer?
No. They want the ball.
They can have the ball. You don't have to play. You don't have to do true gegenpressing. You don't have to do.
Then you're doing more of a Latin coach and Marcelo Bielsa's way of doing that, where you want the ball. But you want to go and fight and win it. You're going to press. You're going to be crazy. But then you want the ball and you want to cherish the ball. You want the ball.
Everything vertical. That's the one thing from today.
Not necessarily.
I stole Jason's.
You were gifted it. You didn't steal it.
I was gifted it. Ralph Rangnick had a class today on his philosophies, and I tuned in because, as we all know, I'm now the true believer, the evangelist of gegenpressing.
Yes, he is.
Press. And
I don't think you have the facilities for that, big man.
Shut your mouth, Big Shaq. I absolutely do. But the one thing is that one thing that he talked about was the need to be vertical. Ralph Rangnick does not believe in passing back. Like, that shouldn't be like a natural part of your system. If it happens, but that shouldn't be what you strive for. Not a lot of horizontal passing. It needs to be cutting the lines, constantly cutting the lines. And I think that's what the U.S. should embrace, is vertical. That's the one thing that everyone keeps talking about. Oh, possession. No, baby. That's not America. America's vertical. We go. That's us.
But this is where I'm going to disagree, because of the Latin influence that was building in the country's national teams and then Klinsmann talked about bringing it further, and then he got to where he didn't even want any Latino players in his teams.
Because he was a charlatan. But
that's also very true. Don't get me started on those U.S. teams because you want me to lose. You want me to lose my mind?
You got time.
You want me to lose my mind? You create some fantasy dream team game where you got the 2014 U.S. men's national team against 2016 Iceland. I'm gonna bang my head against the wall until I pass out instead of watching that nonsense because they were both awful.
I've watched too much of it.
Awful. And that's why Iceland drives me crazy. That is why it drives me crazy because the 2014 World Cup where Jurgen Klinsmann took American soccer back to 1990 when they didn't have any talent. They had a bunch of college kids, and they weren't very good, and they barely had the ball. They probably didn't know what to do with it if they'd had it. They just were not a very good team. He took them back to that in terms of actually trying to create anything, actually trying to be proactive, which is what he sold everybody on. Mm-hmm. None of that happened. He's absolute charlatan. I'm totally with you on this. But I remember how I felt. Yes, they got the wild first game where you get the late goal. All kinds of excitement. Yay, you beat Ghana. Then you throw the game away against Portugal, which would have allowed you to rest in the last group stage game.
Right.
You threw the game away against Portugal because you mismanaged it. Then you had to go for the game
against Germany.
Well, you had to go for the game against Germany because you didn't know what you were going to get in the other match in the group. You got what you needed, so you got through with the loss. But you had to play Jermaine Jones the whole match, and he was dead against Belgium. You threw it away because of that. But after that tournament, you got to the round of 16. Everybody was like, yeah, it was okay, it was good, yeah, we're happy. I sat on a patio for an hour and didn't talk to anybody because I was so angry at how bad we played in that tournament. Mm-hmm. Sometimes, and I might be the weird one in this, and if that's the case, that's fine. Sometimes there is a balance between that style. So if you are Iceland, and maybe we're Iceland. I like to think the U.S. isn't Iceland. I like to think that they should be able to play better soccer than that. I have higher expectations than that. That tournament, we were Iceland, basically. That's what we were. And if you don't win doing that, if you win, sure, you win, just like you're saying. Everything's, just win. You got to win. You win the trophy? Okay. You have a completely different feeling. You lose? For me, I was angry. I was angry at how crap it was. I was angry at how you had talented players that were not there, Landon Donovan, others. You had players who could play with the ball at their feet, Clint Dempsey, playing as a number 9 who wasn't seeing any service because you didn't bring another forward, Landon Donovan. You didn't build a team that could actually do anything other than just hoof it. Awful, crap, garbage soccer. Thanks, Jurgen. That proactive style really worked. It was great. You talked about Latinos, and it just never happened for you, Jurgen. You got all of them out of your team. Crap, garbage. That's why I get frustrated with teams that play that way. If that's all you can do, that's all you can do. I understand that. I get it. I don't like it, but I get it. Some teams should have a higher expectation. And I thought in 2014, U.S. should have had a higher expectation, should have played more. Mm-hmm. I think they would have got the same result at least.
The U.S., to me, is missed opportunity because of mismanagement, not because of lack of talent that this country produces. It's the mismanagement of that talent.
U.S. soccer needs to look south, not east.
Right.
They have to look to Latin America, not Germany, England. France has been the latest one that they've really looked at.
I disagree with the Germany side. I think that there are principles from that you could utilize if you had an intelligent manager who could use some of those, the pressing element.
Then go hire Matias Almeida.
Okay.
His teams press, but they don't do it in that style. They do it in a style that would work for you. Look, you got more Latins in this country than Germans. I mean, I'm not trying to be anything weird about it, but you have more of a Latino influence in the game here than you have a German influence. that needs to be reflected in the way that the game is taught here, in my opinion.
And you have kids who can possess the ball and can do things with it. I just think that in this country, here's the thing about Italy. Italy of city-states that were forced together, that have done nothing but fought each other, both militarily, culturally, for eons. It goes all the way down to when you ask, like Sophia Loren, I shared the quote in our DM thread. She said, "I'm not Italian. I'm Napolitano. I'm from Naples. That's who I am." Still to this day, you have people who say, "No, I'm Sicilian. I'm not Italian. Get it right." There is a natural defensive culture within Italy. Everything is held on to, every inch is preserved because it's been fought over and stolen and restolen. And I mean, from invaders to your neighbor to everyone, is a natural defensive culture within that country. It permeates through everything. America's culture is go. Whether it's good, whether it's bad, whether it's terrible, it's go. And I think if you want to know what our system should be, our style of play should be, forget system rather, our style of play should be go. Forget formation. And that's something that Rangnick said today. Yeah. Formation's a tool.
Mm-hmm.
He said formation's a tool. It doesn't matter. He said 3-5-2, 4-3-3, 4-2-2-2-2. It doesn't matter. It's a tool.
They can allow you to do some different things. Like
correct.
It's in your setup, because go back to Tata, the way he talked about playing in the 3-5-2, they could not press the same way as they did in a 4-2-3-1 or 4-3-3. Three
correct.
Up top versus two. It changes everything. So yeah, it's a tool to do what you want to do in that match.
Right. And so I think American fans need to get off the love fest of a setup. Whether it's, 3-4-3 is terrible. Well, you know what?
That's what you do with it.
There are people who are doing pretty darn well with a 3-4-3. 3-5-2 is what we should go with. You know what? Iacchini with Fiorentina just got kicked to the curb running a 3-5-2 in Florence. I'm sure he would love to hear your particular thoughts on that system. But with America, it needs to be go. It needs to be vertical. Slice the lines. Keep the ball. I don't care if we have 2, 3, 4 players who can keep the ball and do magical things with it. Just don't coach it out of them at a youth level.
That's my fear, and that's why I push back with the Latin thing, because I feel like, I've watched it over the years, where it is this, don't dribble, pass it, hoof it, shoot it is the favorite thing.
That's American coaches who don't understand they because they see something. It's like guys who barbecue. They're like, oh, I saw someone smoke this. I'm going to smoke a pork butt, but they don't understand the entire preparation that goes into the pork butt before you throw it on the smoker.
They didn't watch the Bobby Flay show.
No, they didn't watch anything. They just said, oh, I'm just going to take this pork butt and throw it on a smoker. It should turn okay. And because it tastes halfway decent because you pull it off 8 hours later, okay. But it could be so much better if you went in depth and learned a little something in the process outside of what EA Sports tells you. So
ironically, we do the same thing with basketball coaching.
Isn't that amazing? But I see it every Saturday.
Shoot.
Yeah.
I see it every Saturday. All these parents yelling at their kids, get it out! Coaches, get it out!
Clear it!
Pass the ball, don't carry it! So you take the creativity out of these kids. If we had a culture that was like, go.
Dribble.
Like vertical. We're cutting the lines, baby. If you can carry the ball and you can do something with it, great. If you can't, cut the line.
I was having this conversation after a game trying to explain Barco, for example. Right. So Barco, and I know Gustavo and Bernd and you guys who are students of the game get this. You come from Argentina. You, in this realm, where you're coming up, your upbringing, you are taught to cherish the dribble. Mm-hmm. You are, there are songs about the gambetta. There are songs about the way people dribble.
Right.
it's what you're taught to do.
Mm-hmm.
That's how you are safe. You keep the ball in that way because you're talented enough, you're confident enough to keep it on the dribble. So the mentality, because everybody here, if you don't understand who Barco is, it's why is he holding on to the ball so long? He holds on to the ball too long. He dribbles too much. He's not doing anything. He's dribbling too much. Well, he's moving actually where the ball is from one side to the other. It's changing the point of attack, except he does that on the dribble himself, and you're trying to create the space to use on the opposite side. Atlanta has done
defenders with him when he does it. It's like a gravitational pull.
Yep. Atlanta's done really well with it at times. They haven't this year. In previous years, they did. It was vital. That's why the 3-4-3 could have really worked with the two number 10s with Pitti and Barco underneath, because they were both good on the dribble, but they did it in different ways. Pitti would take up the space that Barco left when he took off on one of his runs. He goes left to right, 20 yards across the field. Pitti drifts over into that space. Ball gets switched over. He's wide open.
And for those who are saying that, the two number 10s, that's a really dumb idea. Well, Ralph Rangnick today spoke about utilizing the flexibility of his system, utilizing two number 10s or two 6s. It's not just a Latin American concept to have two 10s on the field at the same time. It allows you a tremendous amount of flexibility.
It's rare. It's you got to have the right guys.
You got to have the right guys.
And I think that is my number one thing that I will look back at 2020 when we get further down the road from it. That's going to be the thing that makes me sad about 2020 is what Atlanta United could have been and what we really only saw in the home leg against Motagua at Kennesaw of what that 3-4-3, the PB&J, really could have been.
Right.
Goodness, what that could have done to this league. It would have been so much fun. For all the EA
fanatics out there, that would have been magic. That would have been something that would have been cooking. If you had been able to get it right, it would have been cooking.
I think you had it right because Barco in that scenario, and of course staying healthy is the thing, and we know injuries happen, but in that scenario, if everybody's healthy, Barco becomes the sort of de facto 8 because he's going to drop, he's going to defend, he puts in that work. That was something he picked up from Miguel Almiron. He was doing those things. Pitti was staying up high, taking space where people left it. So good at that. Like Pitti, there's when you talk about Thomas Müller at Bayern, for example, he described his position, and I'm going to butcher the pronunciation. Bern, don't yell at me. As a Raumdeuter, a space interpreter. Pitti was that kind of player. He would pick up on where the space was and go to it. That team, the 3-4-3 that Atlanta had at the beginning, had a lot of balance to it. When you'd have Joseph drop in, Pitti would stay up high. When Barco would take off one way, Pitti would go to where Barco came from. You had really good balance. Heinemann and Remedi at that point, good understanding, really nice. I loved what that could have been. It never would have worked without Joseph.
No.
And it's not just because of the goal scoring. It's because of everything else that he gave you.
Right. As a defender, when you are trying to manage that type of situation where you have not just one ball handler and one goal scorer, but you have multiple ball handlers who can distribute really well, now you have to take everything into account. It's not just I'm running man, I'm running zone. This is my guy. This is your guy. Now it's, okay, I have to look at the picture in totality and say, okay, if I take 2 steps forward to mark this guy tight because I don't want him receiving the ball at all, I want to shut him off as an option. Well, I've just created space for this other clown over here, and now I've got Goon Squad over here who can score at will. Now, all of a sudden, my head's on a swivel, which means I'm now losing focus. I'm losing track of my man. He's going to create that 1-step, 2-step bit of space that he needs at this level to turn around and send off a shot or to place that perfect pass that's going to spring the strike on goal. There's so much to take in as a defender that it just will. If you have any remote ADD, you're done for. You're finished. But this is the stuff that the managers will have to contend with 2 10s on the field. One who plays more of an 8, one who plays a true 10. But that American 10 where he doesn't drop all the way back to the defensive line to do pickup and carry the ball forward. I don't care what you learned at the YMCA in 1984. That's not the way that everyone around the world plays.
It goes back to formations not mattering. It's not about, like, we're calling them 10s because we're trying to explain positioning a little bit, but it doesn't really matter what we call them. It's the way the balance works.
Right. The rules are just different.
Yeah. Go, Jarrett.
You ever heard Jalen Rose explain basketball?
A little bit.
Ooh.
Jalen Rose once said that, because if you've ever watched basketball, if you ever like studied, tactics in basketball and movement and plays, you number off your positions in a similar way you would with soccer.
Yeah.
His argument has always been, as long as I've listened to him, numbers were created to help people understand the game. They're not hard and fast.
Right.
That's a good way to put it. Designed there to help people understand the game who don't study it.
Well, and he was the kind of person to explain that because, I mean, he was a point guard, but he was not a prototypical point guard.
Oh. Mm-hmm. Oh, God, no.
Right.
He's also my favorite one to talk about fights, saying, you don't get in fights because your hands are your tools of your craft, and you don't want to throw hands because you mess up your hands, you can't shoot. So guys may talk about wanting to fight, but only idiots will really want to throw a punch because those hands are what pay your bills at the end of the day.
So soccer players could throw punches, though, except for goalkeepers.
Yeah, they could. They get away with it.
Look at LeBron James, right? Like LeBron James has played at the 5 in basketball before, right? He's played at the center, where the center normally plays.
And he's played as the 1.
The Magic Johnson. But that doesn't mean they're centers.
Right.
Just because LeBron James moves there doesn't mean that he is a true center.
It's Mascherano playing center back.
Right. Your responsibility, the responsibility is what matters. I mean, forget the 10 or the 8 or the 6. The numbers are there. As my old barber in New Jersey used to say, those are BS numbers. We never say, how do you want your haircut? Like a 3 up to here. Those are BS numbers. You want it long, short, it's the same thing.
3.5.
It's the responsibility, right? The responsibilities are different. What could have been with Barco and PT and Joseph, if Joseph had stayed healthy, would have just
that's going to be the thing that I look back at and I'm sad about. Okay, lots of stuff on the Twitch pitch as we start to wrap up because we're not doing a 3-hour show.
We went way off the rails.
Yeah, no, it was good, though. It was really good.
That's what this show's all about.
That's what Iceland will do to me. I go off the rails, and then we find a way to find rails. That makes sense. Burned says, I disagree with Nick about youth soccer. More and more kids now try to show up opponents, meg them, do spins, etc. Saw it yesterday. A super small kid megged like 10 kids. It comes from FIFA. Parents cheered both sides. It's starting to change.
If I may, though, my challenge is that I see a lot of coaches still, not the kids.
Yeah.
The problem is not with the kids.
That's a good
point. My
point.
problem is with more of the American coaches who yell and scream like they're drill instructors at the children who want to be creative and meg and do the things that they see in FIFA. So that's my one pushback, Burn. Other than that, I think you're making an excellent point.
I think y'all are both on the same page, just looking at it from different perspectives.
Right.
Gustavo, when we were talking about Barco and the dribble and the way he plays, said that's why Barco is frustrated in Atlanta United. He's probably asking why they called him. What do they want from him just to be a passer? And I don't think it's the coaches. I said it back to Gustavo on the Twitch pitch. I don't think Tata or Frank or Steven wanted him to not do what he does. I think they're putting him in positions to do what he does. It's maybe the fan base, maybe the media who are saying those things, and he sees it. I mean, he pays attention. And
if there's coaches that are pushing back on him possessing the ball and carrying it, is because they understand that MLS officials will not call the same fouls that would be called in Argentina.
Whole different conversation too. Yeah, right. I don't think the coaches are taking that away from him, though. I think they want him to play his game.
But if I'm Frank, or if I'm Frank or Glassy or Tata, I'm going to be like, yo, man, you may want to get rid of that ball a little quicker because these guys are going to clean you out and the ref's not going to call it. So pass the ball.
There is a limit. Yes, there is a limit. Yeah. But I have not had that issue. Correct. Others have. Winterwind gave me a close enough on the Raumdeuter pronunciation. I'll take it. German's hard for me. Iceland, forget it. I'm not even trying it. So I'm not even going there. That's another reason. That's another reason What in the world was that?
9.
Okay. You going Rammstein?
Yeah, going Rammstein.
Okay, got it. I wasn't.
He's going Rammstein. Yes, he is.
Yeah, sorry, I'm used to I got to hear the music to go along with it.
I thought you were doing Madeline Kahn from Blazing Saddles there for a second.
also not.
Of course, that's where
a different direction.
John would go with that. Okay, man, wow. Byrne says the difference between Pitti and Mueller is Mueller is extremely goal and assist dangerous. He needs very few chances to convert. Pitti's more wasteful, less efficient in front of goal. That's absolutely true. And Mueller presses better somewhat, but they're similar types. And it's more of like their mentality that I'm describing it. Pitti is more technical. Pitti will take more risks in doing this. Mueller reads the space better. Pitti can make something when he doesn't have a whole lot of space. They're different, and probably that's the difference between an Argentine player who is trying to interpret space and a German who's trying to interpret space. They come from a different school entirely. They're trying to do the same thing, but it's filtered from a different school.
Correct.
Okay. 10-6-8, Winterwind says their roles, mindsets, not positions. Totally agree.
Totally agree.
KFC talking about the Fab Five, Jalen Rose's side with Michigan. There wasn't anything prototypical about that team. Oh, that's just mean, Nick, man. I love the Fab Five. It is. I love the Fab Five. Probably because they were wearing the black socks, the ridiculously baggy shorts. I had a pair of Michigan yellow shorts when I played like neighborhood basketball in Lexington, Kentucky. I got the Michigan yellow shorts because they beat Kentucky, and everybody hated it that I wore them because, But I love the Fab Five. Love the Fab Five. I was very sad when Chris Webber tried to call timeout, and he didn't have a timeout to call. I was very sad. KFC says, you still expect Barco to be the one of the points of guiding the attack. They complain because he wasn't there enough to see it consistently. He just doesn't do it in a American or prototypical European way. He's an Argentine player. He plays like a kid from the streets in Argentina. He's good enough to dribble past most players. He does it. I think he's added more to his game here. I mean, I still, and I will say this until I'm proven wrong or right, I think he will be successful in Europe. I think he's got to go to the right place, but I think he is a talented enough player. He will be successful. He has added defensive responsibility to his game. He's added a work rate that I don't think he had coming in. He's added to his game. He is more dynamic. He's not Neymar. He's not Messi. He doesn't have that breakaway speed. He beats you on the dribble. He can't run by everybody.
Mm-hmm. Don't be shocked if a team like Parma or Fiorentina comes calling for him.
I've said all along that I think Italy would be the spot for him. I really think he would do well in Italy. I really, really do.
Yeah, Nick, ever since you said Fiorentina, that's been the place I've been looking.
Yeah.
But is it going to be different now with the new manager?
You have two owners with who have American ties, who understand buy low, sell high. The model has been proven with Lautaro Martinez, with Inter. Even with the management change, I think that puts a little more the transfer window at a bit more flux with Cesare Prandelli. However, with the selling of Chiesa to Juve, that creates a spot for a player like Barco who could come in and be that guy who can cut in from the wing and provide service and scoring opportunities. And Parma also, again, owned by an American. He's going to be looking buy low, sell high. They need talent on that team. Don't be shocked if the name Parma bubbles to the surface.
And Burns said, talking about Barco and managers here, says that I think Frank truly appreciated Barco, maybe even more than Tata did. He recognized his talent completely. I'd agree with that. Frank gets a bad rap here. I don't know why at this point. I mean, it's long enough away. Like, he's been gone for a while. You can actually look back and enjoy 2019, in my opinion. You can look back at what he was trying to do this year that got wrecked when Joseph got hurt, no question. And Frank did not come up with a solution. That's my number one complaint. That's my number one criticism. He never solved the problem without Joseph.
No.
But what he was trying to get to here, and he didn't get there consistently enough. The Portland game last year, the NYC game last year were the high marks for me. What he was trying to build this year, the Motagua game was the only one where we really, really saw it. That was where I thought Frank was trying to put a good product on the field, a really fun product to watch, and it got a lot out of Barco. Barco was a critical element to those teams.
Mm-hmm. And you're one defensive lapse away from an MLS Cup with Frank.
Yeah,
so
I agree.
And I will die on the hill that you're winning that game at home against Seattle.
You could have had a treble. You could have had 3 trophies last year.
You will
pull up that screenshot before the shot. The shot heard around the world in that game, and I want you to look at the players and see whose man that was, and then get back at me.
Yep.
Yeah. Look at the screenshot. Look at the screenshot. If you have any remote knowledge of soccer at all, you will instantly say, "Yep, that's his man."
Yep. No, absolutely right.
But the problem was Frank was your vegan stepdad. He was your vegan stepdad who wouldn't let you eat Cocoa Puffs at 11 o'clock at night. And, look, Tata was no teddy bear. He gave off the kindly grandpa vibe, but that man was hardcore. I would not get in a knife fight with Tata Martino.
You would die slowly.
I would die slowly. But I know how to handle a knife. I'm still saying I would die. Tata Martino would be done.
Oh, yeah.
But I will say that Frank was your vegan stepdad. He wasn't Tata. That's crime number 1. Crime number 2, he really didn't have that much of an outgoing personality. Okay. And then crime number 3, he was Dutch, and people didn't think it would mesh. And I think ultimately there were a lot of culture battles within the team that didn't work out. But, that's one thing that Frank had said, previously, was that when he walked into a locker room, he broke it up into 3 groups. The groups that were completely on board, the groups that were not wanting any part of the project, and those who could be swayed one way or the other. And if you lose that last group, the project's done. He, coming from the tutelage of Johan Cruyff as a player, and then my ADD's kicking in. Super mechanical Ajax manager. I can't believe his name.
Rinus Michels?
No, not Rinus Michels.
Oh, Van Gaal. Yeah.
Van Gaal, yeah. Louis Van Gaal. Louis Van Gaal's system was infinitely more mechanical and rigid and structured. And so Frank had both of those things. And the problem is when things aren't necessarily going well, you're going to be more rigid and mechanical because we have to maintain structure. We have to maintain the structure. And then once things get settled, then we can get more free flowing and have fun and make it more attractive. But I don't think he was ever able to really get it consistently out of that mechanical Van Gaal phase. And that was ultimately his undoing when you lost Joseph, and you say, okay, well, how do you fix it? Well, if I go and make radical changes, then we lose the structure and then we're going to get ran. So what would you like me to do? I don't know that that's how the conversations that took place behind the scenes, but I have a feeling that based upon the structure of the system, Frank felt that if he made significant changes, that the entire thing would fall apart, and that ultimately led to his ouster. But it's sad because what could have been was, I think, something that could have been special. You could have had Ajax America if it had played out well. It didn't.
I think you could have had Ajax Argentina in a lot of ways because you would have had the Ajax style and idea, but added on with the flair of a Barco, of a Pitti, and their game-breaking abilities. That would have been really, really interesting to see. We didn't get to see it. That'll be the one negative.
Always be one of those things.
Colonel asks if you know anything about Dundalk's Italian manager.
Dundalk's Italian manager? I don't.
Filippo Giovagnoli.
No, I don't.
Didn't play for big teams at all. This is his first job at a club that is listed here. Retired in 2003 as a player. Played in the lower divisions in Italy. Spent some time in a Serie C club. Got his UEFA A license. Did the AC Milan soccer camps side of stuff in Italy and in the U.S. in 2014. I was a director of coaching at the Metropolitan Oval Academy in New York in 2014. Got the USSF-A in 2018. 6 years at the Met Oval. Interim head coach at Dundalk August 25th of this year through the end of the League of Ireland season, which just ended. But he said his priority would be achieving success in the Europa League. He got them into the group stage, so he achieved it. Interesting.
Yeah,
I need to learn more about him.
Yeah, he played for Arezzo, which is, I don't know anything about the guy. I could probably BS you a great answer, but no, I don't know anything about the guy.
Well, that's your homework for next week.
Right.
Dundalk, Italy.
If he was part of the AC Milan soccer camps, that's a major recruiting effort. They don't put just bums in charge of that. Because,
no, it's really well done.
It's
not just a marketing. Yeah, it's not just a marketing exercise. Like you see some of those camps that are. It's just to put logos on kids in the U.S. and sell camp spots.
Right.
Milan, we did some stuff with them with Soccer in the Streets. They were really looking at player ID. Like they were really looking at players. I'll tell you a story. They really wanted Lagos Kunga from one of the camps here when Lagos was, man, how old would Lagos have been? 14, 15, somewhere in that ballpark. Mm-hmm. They wanted him because the way they do that stuff, like, they will identify kids and they'll bring them to Italy. They will identify kids and then do like regional teams and they'll play in some tournaments in this hemisphere. Lagos was one, they wanted him to come to Italy.
Mm-hmm.
And he was not in a position where he could really go to Italy at that time. Lagos is complicated. He came over here as a refugee. He's got family here. Lagos has had a lot of responsibilities from a very young age. He could not take them up on that. But Milan wanted to bring Lagos over from the camp that they did at Silverbacks Park.
And so that's what we say when he was the technical director for AC Milan soccer camps. That's not. They had some faith in him that that his abilities could carry him, because that's what they typically do. Is if you're a legend, they will stick you with the Primavera side and raise you up within that system. They did that. They did that with Pippo Inzaghi. They did it with a couple of other guys as well. So he sounds like a guy who started off in that general direction and maybe just topped out. And I'm not going to go any higher than technical director with this. So
you get to go run a team. It's different. I mean,
right.
From what I know of the Milan camps, if you were involved in it that kind of level, you got a good eye for talent. You have a really good foundation of teaching the game. Running a team's different. Now, running a team day-to-day is a whole different conversation. Some people can't make that leap. It'll be interesting to watch what he does. I mean, to get Dundalk into the group stage, that's pretty impressive. So now I want to learn more about the way he sees the game. I'm very intrigued. Thank you, Colonel.
Yes, thank you, Colonel. I have homework now.
Yes, you do.
I'm actually thrilled about this homework.
All right, a couple things as we really, really go this time. Wrexham might have Ryan Reynolds and Rob McElhenney as their new owners. That actually is going to happen, it appears.
Oh, my God.
Yeah, no, it started as a joke, but now like they've had conversations with the supporters, the Supporters Trust, the Wrexham Supporters Trust that owns the team. They've had talks with them. They have said that they want to turn Wrexham, what was their thing?
Is it a global force?
Into a global force. They're in like the conference.
National League.
Yeah, they're in the conference in England.
They're in the Panorama.
Global force.
Global force.
That's what Ryan Reynolds and Rob McElhenney are going to do for Wrexham.
Global force.
Ryan Reynolds.
Let's see it. Let's do it. Van Wilder running a soccer team. I'm in.
The Deadpool Wrexham kits.
Van Wilder, man. It's going to be Van Wilder. But Deadpool kits would be pretty cool, too. That's a good call.
I'll buy those. Okay. I got to bounce.
You got to bounce.
So we got to call the show.
That sounds like a plan. Ryan Reynolds will buy Wrexham. All will be good in the world. We all celebrate Alessandro Del Piero's birthday. Good times tonight.
Celebrate it. Auguri. All All right. So until next time, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for tuning in. We hope we moderately entertained you for the time that you stuck with us, whether you are listening live or you're listening on your particular device of choice later on. By all means, please tune in again. Global Force. Next Monday is the global force of soccer podcasting takes to the airwaves yet again, hopefully, if sweet meteor death doesn't clean us all out first. Until next time, mucha mucha Euro, y'all.